You ready to do this, Britta?
I am ready, Spence.
You ready to do this, Patrick?
I am ready as well. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot tonight is Britta Stapleton and Patrick Novosel.
Good morning.
Hello.
We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. No, we're three nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 127. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by, relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Do you guys like how I totally made that sound like I meant to mess it up and then say it correctly with the three of us? Like, that sounded natural, right?
Totally.
Super Friends, are you buying that? Are you buying that, Super Friends? Awesome, I hope so. Patrick, what is going on? How are you, my friend?
Good. This past week, actually the past couple months, really, I have said it before, the last time I was on this podcast, is work has just been kicking my butt. And as soon as I get out of work, I just want to fall asleep, take a nap, lay down, and then wake up and do it all over again. That's pretty much what's been going on with me. As soon as I get out of work, if I don't take a nap, I'm hanging out with the kids. But the main thing I've been doing this past week is I've been playing a mess out of Mortal Kombat 11. Oh,
really?
My goodness. So Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite franchises of all time. See the movies, play the games. So when this Mortal Kombat 11 came out, this NetherRealm, the studios, they know how to make fighting games. They came out with the Injustice superhero fighting game with Superman and Batman and all them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're following the same formula with the gear sets and the RPG elements. It's not just a 1v1 fighting game anymore. There's a full-fledged story mode that's 5.5, 6 hours. I played that all in one sitting one night because I couldn't put it down. Wow. I was up till 2:30 in the morning. It was just, because work has been kicking my butt. I like to unwind and just performing some fatalities on some people. Really helps out a little bit.
Yeah. Nothing says sleep like ripping someone's spine from their body.
Exactly. There's some sort of satisfaction when I'm doing that stuff.
I honestly don't think I've played a Mortal Kombat game since Mortal Kombat 3 on the Genesis.
Whoa. That was a good one.
It's been a long time. Yeah, I just I kind of got to a point where in the beat 'em up 1v1 games, I was like, because I always felt like, and this is just my opinion, this isn't the podcast opinion, although I'm kind of the podcast, so whatever. But I just get to a point where it's I always felt that people kind of get pigeonholed into I play this character or maybe two or three characters, and you could have the general fighting style, but then you figured out a combo that was virtually unbeatable for you, or maybe two or three combos that are virtually unbeatable, and then you just kind of pigeonhole you're into that, you stick to that, and then they don't I play someone that's I'm playing Liu Kang, and it's whatever, great, because I know exactly what it's gonna kick, and I'm a dead man.
Yeah.
So get over here, it's Scorpion all the time, and
so I love the Mortal Kombat. I love fighting games. I love that genre now, but I don't play online. It's only against the computer that I usually play.
Oh.
So, but the fighting games nowadays, it's not just, like I said, it's not just 1v1. There's all sorts of modes. There's story mode. There's a whole other mode called the Crypt, where it's a third person, little adventure where you're opening up loot boxes from all of the in-game currency that you're earning. So you're unlocking skins, characters, things that you can add to your gear sets. There's a lot of things that you can do in this game. There's a whole tutorial that is absolutely unbelievable. It's pretty much like if you're a newbie, you can learn a lot about fighting games or how this game plays. If you're advanced, then you can actually learn the combos that will juggle the opponents to where they can't fight back. It's really cool. Like I'm going back to like the Mortal Kombat Armageddon for, I think it was original Xbox. And they have, like, back then that's when they started to add new modes. I mean, there was like a Mario Kart racer in the game.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And there was like, I believe there was fatalities in there. There was all these power-ups. It was pretty much just like Mario Kart with Mortal Kombat characters. So they've been doing this for quite a while to like extend the game, because there's only so much where I can only 1v1 same characters over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I always thought, I think one of the big draws back in the day to that game was that it was a fighting game, because there was other fighting games. It wasn't like the pioneer of the genre. I mean, you had like Street Fighter and Double Dragon and like that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Side-scrolling fighting games. But it was Mortal Kombat had fatalities, and they would do like these more gruesome things, and then you could also get the version where there was blood, and you'd actually see blood spatter, and then eventually like parent groups got involved, and then the blood was like then kind of like a brown liquid, and it kind of looked like mud. It just weird stuff. But for me, the point was when they changed things to like now you could do babalities, where like you would do something and like they would shrink the other character down to like a baby. And I always went, now, I may not be a smart man, but I've never been in a fight where I punch someone so hard that they revert to a baby. I'm just saying, it seemed a little hokey.
Well, that's what Mortal Kombat's all about. I mean, like...
Plus, I've never been in a fight where I punch someone and they've turned into a baby and someone says, babality,
Yeah. I mean, that's the stuff that I love. It's so out there. It's so off the wall. I mean, these fatalities, these are absolutely outrageous. None of this will ever happen. But
right.
It's just so much fun, ripping a spine out or ripping
a
a heart out.
You punch someone in the chest and rip their heart out and let it beat above your head and then take a bite from it? No.
Yeah. See, that's.
I'm mixing Mortal Kombat with like Temple of Doom there. Ola Sakima, Shadine!
I remember when I was like 7 years old, my dad brought me to a bowling alley because he was in a bowling league, and there was Mortal Kombat 1 there, and I was 7 years old. I'm like, what is this? So I mean, like, fast forward 30 years,
right?
I'm all desensitized from this stuff now.
It's just whatever.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So you've been Mortal Kombat 11ing it up.
Yep, and that's pretty much it. All my free time is in that.
Nice. Britta, what have you been up to? What's new with you since last week when you were on the podcast?
Yeah. Well, I went to Washington, D.C. That's what's new.
Oh, yeah. How was that work vacation?
Yeah. It was not a work vacation. It was exhausting. You say that because you had a lot to do at home. I recognize that. But, yeah, it was an exhausting trip. It was long flights and sitting in classes 8 hours a day. And so, but, I was not home. So I guess that was... whatever,
a vacation
it was
from your kids and your husband.
It was kind of a break from the monotony of the normal day of work, but then I still came home and had 4 days of work to make up.
Was it a break from the monotony of all that hip hop hardcore? No, never mind. I was trying to do a little DJ Jazzy Jeff. Just we'll leave it there. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So no, it was good. I mean, I did get to the first night we were there. We had a little bit of free time, so we got to go and do a nighttime tour of all the monuments. So that was pretty fun. I've only been to DC one other time. I didn't get to see all the monuments before, so we got to see, the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, the FDR. We saw the new Martin Luther King Jr. Monument, which was really cool, and Iwo Jima, World War II, pretty much all of them we got to see. It was like a 3.5 hour tour though. So we were driving around everywhere, and then we'd go walk around for like, a half an hour, and then go drive somewhere else and walk around for half an hour.
It was a 3 hour tour.
A 3-hour
Can I just
tour.
Can I just sit?
I
I'll
know.
just sit right back and I'll hear your tale, a tale of your fateful trip.
I literally thought that while I was on it. I was like, this is a 3-hour tour. I'm like, we're going to get stranded here somewhere. No.
And then have to talk to people with coconuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, well, we weren't on an island, unfortunately. That'd have been even better. So, no, it was good. It was fine. And then flights got delayed on the way home. I spent like 7 hours in the airport on Friday. So that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Super fun. Airport food. So, yeah.
I know you had Shake Shack.
I did. That's the first time I've ever had Shake Shack. I'd never had it before. We had that the first night we were there. My coworker that I was with said, gotta go get Shake Shack. It's so good. And I was like, all right. The burger wasn't half bad. I was not really that impressed with the shake. It was good, but whatever. I could take it or leave it, but I liked it. It was fine.
Patrick, you had
know.
Shake Shack?
So I think I had Shake Shack in Chicago. Yeah, for the first time last year. And I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it was a very, very greasy burger.
Yes.
My wife had the shake. I mean, it was an okay shake, but the burger was delicious only because it was just like greasy beyond
Right.
all get out.
Yeah, I think the burger was definitely better.
I had one in Atlanta on a layover last year, maybe November-ish. I think when I was going back and forth to Michigan for work. Don't ask me how Atlanta is on the way to Michigan, but it is.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, everyone says, In-N-Out versus Shake Shack, and I was like, I like the Shake Shack burger. I mean, it was a little on the greasy side, but not bad. But I felt like they have more seasoning to their meat.
Yeah.
But as far as like the shakes go, I can leave both of them. Neither of them really are super impressive. So
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the burger more than I enjoyed the shake. I just don't like the runny shakes. Like, I like a thicker shake, So, and that was pretty runny. But whatever. It was fine. So, yeah. That's
cool.
That's what I've been doing. Now I'm home trying to catch up on work.
I'm going to give you a quick rundown of my week. This is for the Super Friends and for Patrick, because Britta heard all about it.
I know.
Britta left on Tuesday morning, which was Jackson's 5th birthday. Mm-hmm. I had to get my mom and her husband to come over and take Charlie to school so I could take Jackson out for his birthday breakfast, which is a big kind of tradition that I've been doing just recently with the boys. I take each boy to breakfast on his birthday, and I'm planning on doing that every year going forward.
That's cool.
Yeah, something a little different, something to make it special. I don't usually get to take just one boy out with me somewhere because usually it's kind of they come in a pair basically.
Especially on a weekday.
Right. So I did that on Tuesday, and then we had some flooding in our basement. We got some water that came in the window well, and it smelled like mold, and so I had to contact a contractor. Contractor came in and basically checked it, ripped out a huge section of the wall, pulled out all the drywall, pulled out all the insulation, pulled out the padding underneath the carpet, got a crew in there to start drying it out. So I had to stay at home for most of the day on Tuesday while they did this. Wednesday was kind of a normal day, get the kids off to school and daycare, which makes me get to school or work a little bit later, and then take them to swimming practice all by myself. Tuesday night also, I did take the kids out with my mom and her husband for dinner. Good old Red Robin. That's what Jackson chose.
Yum.
Exactly right. So we did that, and then Wednesday was the swim practice, and then on Thursday I had to leave work early to go pick up Charlie in the middle of the day to take him to go get 2 cavities filled. It was the first time he's had any dental work. I was a little worried because they also didn't want to let me come back to kind of get him settled in. They were like, we find it easier if we just kind of take him back and, let him be, more of an adult about this, and he'll be fine. We'll call you back when he's kind of done. And so they called me back when he was done, and he still had the little thing on his nose, and he had the, the kind of the laughing gas, the nitrous oxide going, and they took it off. And they said, we did give him the Novocaine, but, they used the kind of laughing gas to kind of, get him a little numbed up before that. And he kept going, Daddy, I can't feel this side of my face. It feels weird. What's going on? And so I had to explain to him about how that works and how they gave him medicine and da-da-da-da-da. And And he kept just touching his face and grabbing his cheek and pulling it away. And just like he was obsessed with it for like the next 3 hours that it took to kind of wear off. But then it was, getting that ready. And then, I had to run around and go to the grocery store and pick up stuff because we were going to have his birthday party on Saturday. Friday, I had to leave work early to pick him up from kindergarten. It was just I just was running all over the place. Had to be back home to meet with the contractors to get their equipment out of the basement and just kind of get everything together. I baked a birthday cake. But then Saturday morning came, and I also made the icing. But Saturday morning came, and I realized the icing I made wasn't thick enough. It was a little on the runnier side, especially when it kind of warmed up a little bit. And we tried to ice the cake, and it just started melting. It looked like It looked like a cinnamon roll.
Sad.
Oh, okay.
So it looked like it had this glazed look. I was like, this is not going to this Buzz Lightyear cake is not going to turn out to look right. And then, by the way, on Friday I went to the party store to get a bunch of supplies. They don't have anything that's Toy Story. And Jackson's like, I want Toy Story. So I got these little cowboy hats and little bandanas and little sheriff badges to kind of make Woody-esque outfits. And I bought a whole bunch of crepe paper and balloons and things to try to get the primary color feel of the Toy Story movies. And then the Buzz Lightyear cake dies on us Saturday morning. And I have to take him over to Walmart and we pick out a cake. And the only cake they had that he was agreeable to was a Ninja Turtle cake.
Well, that's a good second choice.
Yeah, but then he didn't also want to do the hats or the bandanas or the sheriff badges. So we have the colors and balloons and crepe paper of Toy Story with a Ninja Turtle cake and then a bunch of old yellow plates that he wanted to use instead of the new green ones I got. It was the most unprepared
hodgepodge birthday.
But he loved it and he had a great time and the family came over and we got to eat hot dogs off the grill and open up presents and just kind of hang out and spend time together. And so he loved it, which is great. That's all that really matters.
Right.
But I felt bad because the lead up to it for months is, Daddy, I want a Toy Story birthday. I want a Toy Story birthday. And I was like, I'm trying to put it all together, man, but there's only one parent home right now and I can't do it all. And I felt like I got so close. I got right up to within feet of the finish line, and then I just collapsed and died. And thankfully he didn't care.
Yeah, all he cares, this is what I told Spence on Saturday. He doesn't really care what the cake looks like. He just cares that he gets to eat cake and open presents. That's all he cares about. So
yeah,
it was fine.
I get it. You're right. I mean, you are right, but
yeah.
As the father that's trying to I put in so much hustle to try to make this thing what he wanted. It's kind of sad when it falls apart. You're like, no, all that effort, all that running around and blah.
Man, it makes you appreciate single parents
yes.
a lot more. I don't know how they
For
do
real.
it. Absolutely no idea.
I forbid Britta from ever going again to increase her work skills at a conference so that she can make more money. I forbid it until next year when it happens again. So,
sure.
Anyway, that's been my week. Other than on a recommendation from Lisa and Lindsay of the Garbage and Gold podcast, on one of their past episodes, they were talking about kind of the 2000s, and I think there was maybe even 2000s TV shows. I started watching Friday Night Lights. I've never seen it, and I'm through the first season, and I knocked out the first season in a week. And I'm kind of enjoying that show. It's not bad. It gets a little 90210-y a little bit at times, but I really like the interactions with the coach and his wife and the coach and some of the players and how he's trying to teach them and raise them to be not only good football players, but become good men. And it's kind of a good show. I'm enjoying it.
So you've watched one season so far. How many seasons are there? And are you
I think there's 4 seasons.
Okay.
So I will continue on. I know the show didn't do super great in the ratings because you can tell it's trying to play to kind of a more teenage high school audience and also trying to play to a more adult audience at times. And so I think I think the show's doing an okay job with that. But I also kind of get the feeling it probably had a harder time finding an audience because of that. But anyway, that and some Kingdom Hearts 2. So Patrick, since we talked last, I did finish the platinum of Kingdom Hearts 1.
Nice.
And now I'm playing Kingdom Hearts 2. And the funny thing is that if you listen to the Married to the Games podcast, Gabe Patillo has been talking about playing Kingdom Hearts 3 and how he's like, there's just so much talking and so many cutscenes. That's how number 2 is for me right now. I'm probably like a good 9 hours into that game. And I was like, man, when am I just going to like have a good section of like 45 minutes where I do like nothing but like fight the Heartless or the Nobodies? Like, I feel it's like I fight for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, then it's like, and now here's 5 minutes of cutscenes, like repeatedly in this game. And I don't remember that the first playthrough years ago. The first game, I mean, we played that. There's big sections where it's like you got to go from one side of the map to the other side of the map, but you got to fight your whole way through. It's going to take you a good 10 to 15 minutes to get over there.
Now,
that is not the case.
That the Kingdom Hearts 3, there's a lot of dialogue. Is that the same way in Kingdom Hearts 2, or is there just a lot of like text boxes that you have to read?
Both, which is weird because they start some of the scenes and they're cut scenes and you're hearing the voice acting, and then like they kind of stop halfway through the scene and then they switch over to text boxes.
That's
and I was
weird.
like,
Yeah, it's super
why?
weird.
Could you not afford to pay Haley Joel Osment to do another like, couple
3
hours
lines.
of dialogue? I mean, really? So they want to play, like they also like, they watch me play, but they want to get to a place where I can, like in Kingdom Hearts 1, if you were in Traverse Town, you could go into like the Gizmo shop and you could just basically like cycle through there and a bunch of enemies would spawn in a bunch of waves and you could just sit there and fight and kind of grind. And I could actually hand the controller to Charlie and just let him sit there and fight for me for like 10, 15 minutes, then have him walk out and walk back in and do it again. And he loved that. I haven't found a place like that in this game. It's just like, oh, hey, I ran into a mob here. Let me hand it to you. Okay, now it's a cut scene and now it's going to be a little mini boss fight. Hand it back,
Jeez.
Yeah. He's frustrated about that. He just wants to fight the Heartless. That's all he wants
just
to
let
do.
me play.
And there's just not a chance. Every 5 seconds, Daddy, can I fight the Heartless now? Daddy, can I fight the Heartless now?
I was like,
we're
buddy,
not even fighting yet. Chill
I'm
out.
like, we're not fighting. It's been 6 hours and all we're doing is talking and eating ice cream. Seriously, the beginning of that game, they eat more of that ice cream.
So much freaking ice cream.
Is humanly possible. Every time you see the characters, they're like licking an ice cream cone. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Anyway, enough about the game. Anyway, that's my week. What do you guys say? Should we get some rebel intelligence? Should we murder some Bothans?
Let's do some fatalities.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, we're into Rebel Intelligence. Patrick has fatality'd a bunch of Bothans in the most gruesome manner possible. So, Patrick, let's start with you. What do you have for Rebel Intelligence?
So there was a recent trailer that has dropped, and it is.
Do tell! I love trailers.
Well, this one is the live-action Sonic the Hedgehog trailer.
Uh-oh.
It's got Jim Carrey, it's got John Marston, and it's got this Sonic the Hedgehog CG character, kind of like the live-action trailer for the new Pokemon movie, where you got a Pikachu is CG. This is the same way, but Sonic is CG. But if you watch this trailer and you see Sonic, I don't think they did a very good job representing himself, the Sonic from the games, into this movie. This trailer shows Sonic running and doing his normal, rolling into a ball, going down a road. I mean, it is pretty much fan service, exactly like the games. But when Sonic is standing there, he looks like he is just like a kid in blue spandex.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like looks like he's got leggings on. Like it's so strange because in the game he has like thin legs, and this CG Sonic looks like he's just like a little person with a hedgehog face. And the hedgehog face is all messed up. Like his It looks like it doesn't look like a full feature film that's going to be released in theaters. If this was like, hey, this is a Netflix movie, or this is going to be straight to ABC Family, one of those old movies, that's what it looks like. But I mean, like you got Jim Carrey to be Dr. Robotnik, and the concept sounds good, but this trailer, I'm not so sold on it yet.
Jim Carrey hasn't been acting in a lot of things recently. Like I know after he got got together with Jenny McCarthy, a number of years back ago, like he kind of slowed down his career.
Yeah. And
he stopped acting in less and, did less and less. I mean, he still was acting, but just not as much as he was. It was not as prolific as he was during the late 90s and like early 2000s. So like you can tell in the clip in this trailer that like Jim Carrey's going to be doing the kind of old comedic Jim Carrey stuff. Like you can tell that it feels like this is a vehicle almost written just for Jim Carrey and not for the rest of the Sonic BS that looks like in the trailer. But at the same time, it's like you see like different stages of his Dr. Robotnik, and towards the end of the trailer, you see what I remember from the video games,
right?
And it looks even like crazier and outlandish. And I'm like, this just looks like it's a payday, and Jim Carrey signed because he's going to get a big fat check, not because it's actually going to be a really good comedic role for him.
Yeah, and I feel bad for Jim Carrey because this movie, based on the trailer, it just does not look good. The Jim Carrey scenes in the trailer, I mean, I kind of chuckled a little bit when he was at the army base talking to the sergeant or whoever it was. He was. I don't think he's enough to save this movie, to be honest.
No. I wish. Here's the other thing. What is up with the cheesy little sound of like the rings from the video game? Like when Sonic would like roll through the rings and like ta-ting, ta-ting, ta-ting. You know what I'm talking about? The little sound of the game. They like did that a few times throughout the trailer. It sounded so out of place. So like, we're just doing this for fans. But I was like, this doesn't make any sense to anyone that's going to watch this trailer who doesn't know anything about the game. And if you're only trying to capture the nostalgia moviegoer, this is the problem now. The nostalgia moviegoer that played the Sonic games, like back in their heyday when like Sonic was huge, they're my age now. At 40 years of age, I'm a lot more discerning on what I'm going to go see and spend my money on than I was when I was like a teenager and I went and saw that Mortal Crappy Kombat movie and thought it was an amazing movie and convinced Steve he had to go see it. Because, it was a Mortal Kombat movie and it was based off a video game, and video games are awesome and we love video games, so video game movies have to be great. This Sonic movie looks like hot garbage.
Yeah,
like, bad.
I'm not a Sonic fan. I never played it or anything, but I watched this trailer and was like even I know what Sonic is supposed to look like, and he just looks like stretched out. It looks like they just like took him and just stretched him, and his legs are just weird. They freak me out. I'm just saying. But yeah, it does not look like something that would entice me at all to go and see it.
I saw on Twitter that someone had photoshopped Sonic from the images from the trailer and made it look more like what he did in the games. And it looks way better. I mean, just someone who just took an image and just photoshopped it. And it looks so much better. Like, if Sonic looked like that in this trailer, it might have been a different feeling. But, I mean, Sonic's the main character. And if you can't get the main character right, it's just going to be awful.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, I'm a big fan of streaming services. We've talked about them. A streaming service I don't have is DC Universe. And the whole DC streaming service, and I'm kind of looking at it, and I've given some thought, like, is this something I would want to do? Well, a new trailer for the upcoming series Swamp Thing has been released, and after watching this trailer, I'm fully on board with the whole idea of not getting the DC streaming service.
Yikes.
I'm going to try to remain positive, but let me just tell you this. I am not a horror fan at all.
Yeah, not at all.
And I don't really know a lot about Swamp Thing. And I've heard people say, oh, this Swamp Thing, it's going to be close to the origin story. And, that'll be really cool because they, it's going to give them room to kind of do some other things, as time goes down. So I'm thinking, okay, Swamp Thing, the basics is it's some kind of guy who kind of, is born out of the swamp maybe or whatever. Cause he's always covered in like sludge and like vines and like, growth of some vegetation of some kind. But I'm thinking, okay, whatever. Some sort of chemical accident. I don't know, however we get there. Not a Swamp Thing fan. But I was like, okay, let me look at this trailer. The trailer is straight up a horror trailer through and through. It looks like if this was October and someone says, hey, this movie's coming out this month, this would make sense to me because it looks like a horror movie. But this is actually the trailer for this, Swamp Thing series that's going to come out. And it's out there. Like, if you're a Swamp Thing fan, I'd say definitely go see this. If you like horror stuff, maybe go see it too. But I looked at this and I went, that's a hard pass for me. I don't like the horror genre. And this just looks like it's going to be creepy and dark and at night. And it's going to be a lot of like vines jumping out of nowhere and people being strangled and then drug underwater. That's what it looks like to me.
For me, I enjoy the horror genre. Like my sister and I, whenever a horror movie or trailer comes out, we go see it together. But I don't understand why DC Universe, this whole streaming service, they're going after these side and unknown, not really unknown, but lesser known, lesser known characters. Like, to me, while I'm watching this is a TV series. This isn't a movie, correct?
Right, it's a TV series.
Like, how is all this going to play out? Did we just see scenes from the entire season and only like the scary scenes? Like, is this going to be like I'll watch for 40 minutes, I get a jump scare once, and I'm bored for the rest of the 39 minutes? I'm confused why there isn't a Superman or a Batman,
right?
Or a Joker or something to get people to come in and watch this and use this streaming service. Swamp Thing's, for me, as big of a horror fan I am, I'm not really into Swamp Thing, and this really isn't pulling me in any way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they would be better served with showing someone that's more of the classic superhero. Especially if you can go with the DC's Holy Trinity. Get one of them, Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman. Like, don't mess with the formula. Stick to what works. Get people excited about your DC Universe service. And then pull out, like, here's a Swamp Thing. Because then people might be more willing to give it a try.
Right.
It just seems to me this is like the whole... Once again, like this is the whole Justice League approach, right? It's like, let's do this the most backwards way possible and then try to reverse engineer our way into success.
Yeah, they need to start with something, like a Smallville kind of show. Like something like that that's going to like reach a lot of people who even aren't as interested in the superheroes and things like that it'll be more interesting. Because, I mean, frankly, for me, Swamp Thing, I don't know. I don't care. I saw the trailer. Way less interested than I even was, which was already zero interest. So
I just love the fact that you brought up Smallville because I loved that show.
I know, it's a great show. I mean, that's how you do a show, right? Like about like a series about a superhero. Like, that's awesome.
And still to this day, Tom Welling's like my favorite version of Clark Kent. So yeah. Yeah. Okay, the last thing I had is Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the guys who penned Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Kind of big news that they just signed a new deal with Sony Pictures Television. So basically it's like a multi-year deal for multi-shows, and they're going to do shows that include Spider-Man and his villains like Venom, Morbius, Black Cat, Silver Sable. So they basically have the rights to basically kind of write anything that Sony Pictures has the right to Marvel character-wise, which is basically Spider-Man and the stable of Spider-Man characters. So, but this is for TV. This is a TV deal. Previously, they'd been with Fox TV, But now that Fox TV is owned by Disney, and they were also the ones that were writing the Solo movie, and then there was kind of creative differences, and so they left Disney and they kind of left the Lucasfilm, and then it was Ron Howard that kind of came in and finished up that movie. I think that as soon as the Fox thing kind of went over to Disney, I think they were like willing to bounce out. And then, of course, their recent success with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse just kind of helped cement them over there with Sony. So they got this new big deal. I'm really excited because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was very well done. And I'm okay if we can see more stuff in that vein with Spider-Man. If they want to stay with the kind of the Miles Morales thing and do that in a TV show, I'd be all over that.
So I don't watch much TV. The TV that I do watch is like Netflix or HBO, like, which is I'm interested to see where these TV shows are going to land. Is it going to be like a Saturday morning cartoon hour, or is it going to be a prime time? Is it going to be on like, the Disney Channel? Like, does Sony have their own streaming service? Are they going to all of a sudden have one with all this?
You never know.
Everyone's getting on the streaming service bandwagon. But it'll be interesting to see. Was there anything that they said about whether this is going to be a cartoon, CG, live action?
They hadn't really said yet whether or not they're looking at animation or CG. They also did say they are going to do some stuff that's like non-Spider-Man. So they're going to do some like comedies and some dramas. I mean, they've written other stuff too. Like they've done like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They did the movie 21 Jump Street. So like they've done other things that are like outside of kind of the comic book animation realm.
Wow, those are two very different movies.
Very different movies.
For sure.
But this is also like Phil Lord and Chris Miller, I think, are also the guys that wrote the Lego movie.
Oh,
and the Lego movie too. So I really like their writing. I think they're really, really good writers, and they've done a lot of good stuff with the scripts that I've seen. So I'm intrigued, but it's just interesting though, because this is such a big deal, because they're going to have a chance, I think, to continue on with some of the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse stuff. And they just signed this big, big, big deal, which kind of for writers, like you don't hear of a lot of times the big news about like TV writers, getting this multi-series deals and big budgets and, all that. But they're kind of the hot things right now in filmmaking and writing. So.
Yeah, and I enjoy TV shows, especially like Netflix, like when they drop like 10, 20 episodes at once. Because because in movies you get 2 hours, right. 2 to 3 hours kind of thing. And with TV shows, you get a lot more character development. You're able to be with these characters a lot more and be invested in them a lot more. So I do enjoy that they're going towards the TV route rather than a multi-movie deal.
Yep. So anyway, that's all I had in Rebel Intelligence. Did you guys have anything else?
I had one thing.
What did you have for us, Britta?
So Steven Spielberg, probably about sometime last year, he had kind of come out and said, that some of these streaming services like Netflix and things like that shouldn't be contenders for the Oscars for the movies that they put out, right? So he specifically said, once you commit to a television format, you're a TV movie. So I guess there's been some kind of debate about that, and the Academy was going to kind of talk about changing its rules, because right now, as it is that some of these movies that Netflix and stuff puts out do actually qualify for the Oscars, because even though they start on streaming service, they do have a limited run in theaters.
In the theaters in LA usually, so they can qualify. I remember all this.
Yeah, real limited. So apparently, Steven Spielberg has kind of walked some of that back a little bit now.
Really?
It was speculated he was supposed to be going to the Academy's board meeting or whatever recently to kind of fight against this decision and have them change the rule. He ended up not even going. Nothing got changed. And then he recently just said, he basically was kind of trying to say that he's just supporting the theater experience. Not that he's against the streaming services and things like that, but that, you know, he wants people to experience a theater and watch a movie together as a group and have this community kind of a thing. So he's kind of stepping back from what he said before.
All right, let's take bets.
Yeah.
How long until there's an announcement that Steven Spielberg has done some big movie or like limited run series that's going to stream on like Netflix or Hulu or maybe even Disney Plus?
Well, there actually was, like, he actually was meeting with somebody. Oh, I'm trying to think. I have to look and see, but he was meeting with some sort of like Apple TV or something like that.
Of course.
Yeah. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's back this Brink truck up to your front door, change your tune for us, and we'll just, dump all that money right at your front door.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. So, there you go. That's what that is. But
like AC/DC says, money talks.
Right? Exactly.
Interesting. I mean, I kind of was in his camp early on when he was kind of talking about this, and looking at it logically, it's like, okay, I get it. The streaming services don't really fall into the traditional TV camp, and they definitely don't fall into the movie camp as far as like a theater going experience. And so like the whole like, here, we're only going to release it for like a single week in LA, so it qualifies as having a theatrical release. Mm-hmm. I get that, because it feels like, hey, we're just trying to skate under a technicality so we can be up for awards, which is kind of self-congratulatory anyway. And when your show or streaming service or whatever starts winning a bunch of awards, it basically gets more eyeballs on it, which basically makes you more money.
Right.
And so I get it, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay, maybe it kind of defeats the integrity of it a little bit. But at the end of the day, I mean, what do I really care? If it's good content, it's good content.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, like, there's a there's a lot of people out there that don't go to the theaters and just wait for it to come out on DVD or Blu-ray or a streaming service, and that's how they watch it.
Right. Yeah. And Netflix specifically came back and was just like, well, we give access to some of these things to more people than they would have if they're only in theaters in a limited run, especially those indie type of movies. Sure. They gets way more exposure to more people on a streaming service because they can access that versus, some of these movies that come out, like, we don't get them here. I'm not going to have a chance to go see it. They're only in LA for a small time or, at the big film festivals and things like that. And,
Look at Stranger Things. If Stranger Things had been a movie and had a release, worldwide, how well do you think that would have done? I don't think it would have done nearly as well and been nearly as big a thing culturally that way as it was because of Netflix and being streaming. And everyone who had a Netflix account or knows someone with a Netflix account could get access to it. And you could watch it at your own pace and you could experience it. And it was kind of this, viral thing that like everyone was kind of doing at the same time. But if it was just a movie, I mean, maybe it could have picked up. But usually those kind of like sci-fi, indie, kind of, fantasy genre stuff in the movie theaters don't do so well unless you're big, well-known names.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably wouldn't have ended up seeing it, frankly, because when I first heard about it, I was not really that interested. And you made me watch it with you, Spence. So, and then now I love it. But if it had been in theaters for, a short time because it wasn't like some big huge thing, I probably would have never seen it. I would have missed out.
A lot of people would have missed it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like when my wife was out of town when Stranger Things dropped on Netflix, and it was right there in front, and on the featured list of shows. I'm like, okay, I'll turn this on. My wife's not here, it's like I don't have anything else to do. Let's just turn this on. And after the first episode, I'm like, wow, this is really good. Like the same way, I would like if it was out in the theaters, I probably wouldn't have seen it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because also you would have had to leave your home, pay money to see it. I mean, obviously you're paying money to Netflix already, assuming you're not pirating. But you're already paying like that $10 a month, right? Or the $11 a month. And so now it's just extra content that you can like preview and watch a single episode and see if you like it. versus like the whole idea of like a movie. It's like that's a more commitment because you've got to like get out of the house, you got to go to a movie theater, you got to buy a ticket, you got to sit down in a strange place surrounded by a bunch
Maybe
of
get a babysitter.
Maybe, yeah, if you're going with a spouse, or if you're by yourself but you got kids, you got to get a babysitter and you got to line that up, and that costs money. Next thing you know, you've shelled out $50 between that and popcorn maybe and a drink to watch something you don't know. Versus I can sit on my own couch and I can try it for 45 minutes to an hour, and if I don't like it, I don't have to continue watching, and I'm not out anything more than the $10 I'm already out. But I'm watching a bunch of other stuff on Netflix, so really I'm okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, I like it.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Steven Spielberg's walking it back now. Under, suspicious activity, we'll say, Mr. Spielberg.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what Apple TV puts out in their new platform, in the next couple of years.
Right. I tell you, Disney Plus needs to be courting Steven Spielberg.
Right.
'Cause if you could get him to come over and do some stuff for you, that'd be pretty big.
Dang, that'd be good.
That's all I got. That's, Brita, that was the last one you had, right?
Yeah.
Patrick, you all out?
I'm out.
All right, let's move on. Last week, we asked a question to the Super Friends. We said, if you could go to a Comic-Con or some sort of convention and you could meet any celebrity, who would you want to meet and why? And we're going to randomly draw some winners, and we'll announce that through our social media, and we'll put that out there this week based on the people that responded. We got some artwork that we picked up at FanX. I talked about it. It was the artwork from Change for Love, where disabled people do artwork for other disabled people that are in the hospitals, and then they sell their prints for charity donations. I got some stuff from Russ Richards' art that we have. And then, I think it's like Mike Mitchell. I've got his cards somewhere here. He does this kind of like really awesome word art where he takes an image from like a movie or a TV show or something and then uses like dialogue and uses that dialogue to craft that picture. And so we're going to be giving out some stuff. But before we get to all of our super friends, just a recap, I said I want to meet Mark Hamill because I want to meet Luke Skywalker, and I think Mark Hamill would be a way cool guy to hang out with. Brita, you said who did you want to meet again?
I'm pretty sure I had, technically 3 people, but in 2. Matt Smith and Karen Gillian. Yeah, together. Okay. And then Steve Carell.
Oh, that is right. You did go with like the multi-answer. Okay. Patrick, if you were at a convention and you could meet any celebrity, who would you want to meet and why?
So when I was listening to the podcast last week, I'm like, yes, I already know this answer before you even ask the question. I'm like, I already know who I want to meet. And it is Jason David Frank. He is the original Green Ranger from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers show. And I follow him on Facebook and Twitter. He's got his own like YouTube web series where it goes through his life. And he is just like a super positive guy. He's faith driven. He's always nice to every single person that he meets. Every time I see people posting on Twitter, on social media about meeting him, they always say it's just such a great experience. And as a big Power Ranger fan that I am, I would love to meet him.
I think he's been here like 2 or 3 times.
I was going to say the Power Rangers are always here.
But no, but specifically, I think Jason David Frank has been here a number of times, but I never really watched the Power Rangers, so I'm always like, I don't really know this guy, no real interest. But it kind of bugs me to hear Patrick say, like, no, this guy's like a really legit cool guy, and
we haven't met him yet.
Yeah. Well, next time.
Next time he comes, I'm going to get a photo with me and him, and I'm going to send it to you.
Oh, I'm not going to like it.
Is that nice? It's a little mean.
It's a little mean, yeah.
Thumbs down.
Let's go over to email, where you can reach us every week, fortivenerd@gmail.com. We've got Peter Christensen. He says, Dear Nerds, I think the Netflix random channel surfing would be a great feature. First, it will not be purely random. Netflix is famously a data-driven company. They can filter shows you've seen recently, negatively related, or similar to shows you've negatively rated. One of the Netflix's big technological features people became aware of was their recommendation engine and the $1 million contest to improve it. So they will recommend shows that you'll like, and they can choose episodes that are highly rated or good to start with. Finally, you can bet your biscuits that Netflix-owned shows will receive advantageous placement in these recommendations.
Oh, of course.
Sure.
Peter, I'm with you all the way. Absolutely. He says, I'm far more forgiving of the Suicide Squad movie. It was a fun movie and that went down in flames. I focus on the fun, while Spencer focuses on the flames. I love that. That's fine. You're good, Peter. You're not wrong. He says, I love the idea of John Cena in Suicide Squad 2. He's extremely likable, larger than life, and was underrated as the voice of Ferdinand. Also, keeping Margot Robbie in the reboot makes sense. She's literally the baby you don't want to throw out with the bathwater. Yeah, I agree there too. Peter goes to say, I've never been to a comic convention. I would have loved it when I was younger, but now I don't know if it would be worth the crowds. My wish list person to meet would have to played a great character and also seem like a fun person to hang out with. I guess I'd pick Chris Pratt. He has played so many hilarious and cool characters, and he seems like a great, genuine guy outside of his roles. Cheers, Peter Christensen. I agree, man. I do think Chris Pratt seems like a really kind of cool guy, and I think he'd be a lot of fun to meet.
Absolutely.
I
would meet him, but I also think that he's funny and hot, so whatever.
See, for a second, I was like, oh yeah, like and then Britta, I would meet him. I was like, yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with Britta's interpretation of his personality, more of like, his peck personality.
Please, I would have met him even back in his like Parks and Rec, like pre-Star-Lord days. Come on, yeah.
Okay.
Network connectivity.
Leslie, I looked up your symptoms and it says you have network connectivity problems. Anyway. I love that gag.
It's my favorite.
Over on Facebook, which is facebook.com/FordofNerd, I've got Caleb Albers. He says, dang, after last week's episode, I kind of want to meet Zachary Levi. Seriously, dude, he was a lot of fun.
For real.
He says, but my pick has to be Lou Ferrigno. Yes, I know I've gotten a picture with him before, but I want to actually go to panels with him and get an autograph so I can actually talk with him and tell him how much his representation of Hulk meant to me. When I went last year to FanX and got the picture with him, I was with my dad and I feel like I got profiled a bit. I think he assumed I was there with my dad instead of my dad being there with me. I feel like he thought my dad was a huge fan of his, which he is, but not nearly as big of a fan as me. But because I am and look like a millennial, he focused a lot more on my dad, which looking back was fine because I was in a state of total shock, but still, I want the chance to actually talk to him and share how he inspired me to be more accepting of myself and my interests, and like I said, for his portrayal of my favorite hero and what his show taught me growing up.
Oh,
Caleb,
man.
Caleb. That is an amazing reason to want to meet the guy. Mm-hmm. I had a chance to meet him when he did the first comic convention here in Salt Lake. He came to town. I got a picture with him and got to talk to him for a couple minutes. He is a great guy. Come with us the next time we go. He'll be here. I'm telling you, Caleb, you come with us, man. We'll go meet him and I'll totally just act dumb starstruck next to you and he can profile me and think like I'm like, some weirdo, and he'll just focus on you and talk to you the whole time.
Yeah, just stare at your phone.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay, lose someone. I don't know who you are. Telling you, we'll hook it up, Caleb. I love that. All right, going over to Twitter. We got a lot of answers over here on Twitter this week. So BS at BravesB_ Brian. He says, for me, it's Chris Pratt as Star-Lord and or as Andy Dwyer, FBI Detective Burt Macklin. He was hilarious on Parks and Rec and just seems like an all-around fun dude to be around. I'm with you there. Burn Excelsior at Dantes_Belmont says, there's so many. At Hamill himself, Mark Hamill, because he's awesome. At Don't Try This, of course, which Don't Try This is going to be, what's his name? Adam Savage from Mythbusters. The Rock, he's an inspiration. And the two Neils, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Neil Patrick Harris.
Nice.
So many people out there I would like to meet and have some conversations. What I like about Burnaby's answer here is that he's got Mark Hamill, and I'm like, okay, Luke Skywalker, got it. That, sounds right. But then he follows that up with like Adam Savage, which is like Adam's, this prop master and this guy who's, done all this stuff and was on a TV show trying to debunk myths. And I like that because it seems like two kind of more separate people. And then he talks about The Rock, a professional wrestler turned actor. And then he talks about Neil deGrasse Tyson, an astrophysicist. And then Neil Patrick Harris, who is an actor and also like an award-winning, like, Tony actor and, musical theater actor. Mm-hmm. And so but he's just all over the board. I feel like he spanned the gamut there. I really like that. What do you guys think? Besides Mark Hamill, would you want to meet Adam Savage or The Rock or Neil deGrasse Tyson or Neil Patrick Harris?
Yeah, totally. I think, I think Adam Savage would be pretty cool to meet because he's like a normal person, not like starstruck totally.
I mean, define normal.
Well, as normal as we are, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and definitely some of the other ones, like The Rock just seems like a genuinely like cool guy. And yeah, I like it.
I think The Rock would be. I think The Rock would be fun to hang out with, but I think I would feel so inferior sitting next to him.
Yep.
He'd be like, "Come on, bro." I'm like, I can't do that. He's like, "No, we got this. You can do this." I'm like, "No, I cannot lift that car over my head. I know you can, but I can't."
Right.
But I think he would actually be fun. I think The Rock would be really fun to be around, like around his mom, because I think he's a big mama's boy. Mm-hmm. I think he's a big mama's boy, and I think it'd be fun to like watch his mom like put him in his place, just a little bit. I'm just saying. I think that'd be fun. Anyway, moving on. Tim Paulin says Clint Eastwood. What a career, from TV to movies to directing. Last of the Cowboys. I think Tim's got a good one there. I think Clint Eastwood would be fun to meet. I would also once again feel very intimidated by Clint Eastwood.
Me too.
Yeah.
I
would not know what to say to him at all and feel very. Plus, I've seen him do like political things, and he's very political and stuff too. So I'd just be like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? Like quote back one of his movie lines to like, "Well, do you feel lucky, punk?" I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. He's gonna kill me, even at his advanced age. He's gonna break a hip while trying to do it, sure, but he's still gonna kill me.
Right.
The Dragon Lair at Turpin Rich says Chris Evans. He's just a nice guy and would be fun to have a conversation with. He seems to be a lot like Captain America. I think that is accurate. I have heard him, and I think he really, in the past number of years, has really gone out of his way to, I don't want to say to be like Captain America, but I think he plays Captain America a lot like Chris Evans.
Himself. Yeah.
Yeah, if you follow him on social media, he is always super positive, and it's really hard not to like the guy. Yeah.
Plus, he goes to all the children's hospital and dresses up as Captain America to do stuff like that. That stuff just, man, I got a lot of respect for people who do that, because they could be doing other stuff with their time and to go get back into costume and anyway. The Oddball Aussie at Aussie Oddball says Chris Pratt. The guy has been a huge inspiration to me fitness-wise, really got me motivated. Now I'm pretty fit. He has come so far since he started acting, and it would be awesome to do a gym session with him and have a beer or two afterwards. I like this just because the guy's not he'd be fun to talk to, but also I want to go get in the gym with him.
Yeah.
Let's go do a workout together.
Man, I feel like I need to change my answer to Chris Pratt.
I know, right? We all answered wrong. They got it right.
I think Chris Pratt's a great answer, but this next answer from Skinny Matt K, it really I heard this and I was like, man, why did I think of that? Bruce Campbell. He's one of my favorite actors. I love the Evil Dead trilogy. He named Spider-Man, defeated Spider-Man twice, and was the star of one of my favorite TV shows, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr.
I love that show.
How would you not want to meet the Chin? I'm just saying, Bruce Campbell. Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Plus, he'd just be funny. He'd just be he just seems like a funny guy.
Yep. After Midnight at Pod After Midnight says William Shatner, and as a little gift says I want him. I think I could take William Shatner. I could beat up William Shatner. I think meeting William Shatner also would be amazing.
Yeah.
Although that conversation would probably take quite a while to get through. Just because everything would be really drawn out. Anyway, over on Instagram, we've got the Garbage and Gold podcast, which is actually, this is from Lisa. She says, Tom Hanks, because he seems so chill and wonderful and would soak up my social awkwardness.
That's a for real good. Yeah.
That, yes. Like,
Love Tom Hanks.
I think not only is, like, does he come across as, like, a world-class guy, but, like, he has been in and acted in so many things. Like, could you imagine just sitting down with him and, like, listening to him tell stories of, like, being on set and filming for, like, a few hours? Like, hearing, like, him talking about Forrest Gump or Apollo 13 or, like, literally everything he's been in. Like, old stories, like, big. I mean, just, I think that would be amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Super Friends, thank you so much for the answers. A lot of great answers. A lot of Chris Pratt love this week. We will, on the social medias this week, we will announce our winners of the artwork, and then I will get in direct contact with you, and we can arrange for some shipping and such. But we appreciate it. This is my favorite part of the show, is interacting with you. Britta, how can our Super Friends help us out this week?
They can go check us out on iTunes, give us a rating, maybe like 5 stars. I think that's pretty good. Something like that. Share us on Twitter. Share us on social media. I don't know, Facebook. That's one of them.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
LinkedIn, maybe. Didn't I mention that one time? Share us on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think you did. I was like, I don't have a LinkedIn for the podcast.
Whatever, I'm going to put it on there. It's one of my skills. Totally going to get a job from it.
Nice. We'd like to hire you to be the chairman of the Federal Exchange Board. We saw that you did a podcast once. And we feel you're qualified.
I got skills,
Nice.
Yeah, so go find us, share us, tell a friend.
There you go.
Tell your friend to tell a friend. Tell that friend to tell a friend. There you go. Share the love.
Or as Delvin Cox said, just take your friend's phone and subscribe to the podcast for them, and they won't even know.
And
there you go. I've
genius.
actually done that before.
That is so genius.
I know. He said that. I was like, dude, how many times have you done that for your show? It's smart. It's very smart. So here's the thing, Super Friends. This week is our movie club, and we are talking about Avengers Endgame. A number of weeks ago, Patrick was on the show, and he literally texted me the next day or 2 days later, says, hey man, when you talk about Avengers Endgame, I want to come back on the show. And I was like, yeah, of course. And of course, here's Patrick. And so we're gonna talk about this. Now, that being said, if you have not watched Avengers Endgame by the time this releases this upcoming Thursday, you need to pause this podcast right now, because we are going to be talking, and we're not going to be doing this spoiler free. There's really no way to do that.
No way to do it.
There's no way to talk about this movie spoiler free.
Say 2 sentences.
This is the culmination of the 21 other films that have taken place up to this point, and this is the sequel to Avengers Infinity War. We always knew this was a 2-parter. So, Super Friends, you have been warned. We are now going to go in to discussing the movie, and we're going to be talking spoilers from here on out. So, you've been warned. 3, 2, 1. All right, we're now talking. The gloves are off. So, first things first, Patrick, you saw the movie. You were texting me the day of. I was texting you back. We were doing this little T-minus countdown madness until right before the movie started. And then you and I didn't talk for the next day or two, because I was trying not to talk to people. I've had lots of people come up to me and ask me what I thought of it. Britta got back and she said, how was it? And I said, you'll find out on Saturday when we go see it. Just deadpanning, not going to give anything away.
Yeah, all he said was, I liked it. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. I said, okay, that's all I need to know.
You can't do anything else. That's all you can say.
So now we're out of this media blackout. Just right off the bat, did you like it? Did you love it? Did it live up to your expectations?
It was so epic. Absolutely epic. I mean, it's a culmination of an entire universe. 21 movies. It was 11 years ago when Iron Man came out, and for them to, I mean, they have how many different characters do they have? Like main characters, 20 plus.
A lot.
That they had to intertwine a 3-hour movie and to give these characters enough screen time and a storyline and a purpose to do all that, and it was so well done. There were some things that I have questions on regarding plot holes and how time travel works and all that. But it was one of the best movies, one of the best superhero movies that you could ever make.
Yep. Good. Brita, where are you at? This live up to your expectations? Like it, love it, not like it?
Yeah. So, like, I literally, after I saw the movie, I wrote down my initial impressions, which were basically 3 very simple things. Number 1, yes, they totally got this right. And I really loved it. Number 2 was, I have never cried so much at a movie in my life before. What? Like, literally the whole last hour, just bawling. Tears, like happy tears, sad tears. Like, it was all there. Like, just, I used all the napkins that I had gotten from my popcorn because I was just crying so much. And then number 3 was, I cannot wait to go see this again. Yep. So, I just thought they did an awesome job with it.
My initial impression was, and it still is, I loved it. And for the very simple reason that Avengers Infinity War was a great film, but it was all of the quick build up to like, oh, hey, this is going to go down and we're going to fight. And we see this big, massive battle and all this stuff that's going on. And like, I felt like that was a lot more action oriented and there's a lot of things going on. But this one, for me, I was like, this movie tonally has to, like, you got to find a way to, like, say, like, we lost. And we got to find a way to pick up the pieces. And we got to try. And, like, I knew that it had to have, like, a more emotional gut punch. I feel like there was one real good, solid emotional gut punch in Infinity War. And that's the snap. Like, you start watching all these heroes just, like, go. And, like, that moment with Tony Stark holding Peter Parker, like, that's that gut punch moment emotionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went, you have to find a way to match the emotional tone of that moment across multiple characters, trying to find a way to pick up the pieces of their lives and move forward, and then still find a way to try to resolve the issue. And I felt like that was a very satisfying payoff in the emotion and a very satisfying payoff with the resolution. And so for me, this movie nailed what it needed to do in order to complement the first movie, but also stand alone as an excellent movie on its own.
Right.
So that being said, just kind of general impressions. Let's talk about the movie, but first of all, I want to talk about the big story. I mean, before we really kind of get into the nitty gritty, let's talk about the big story of the numbers. And I'm talking the box office because this is making all sorts of crazy news. And I got a whole bunch of details here because obviously we know Infinity War like set the record for like the biggest opening weekend at like $256 million. And a lot of people were saying they thought that Endgame would beat it, but only get up to maybe around like 280. And that was kind of like the general consensus of where they thought. Some people said maybe 300 million. But there was a lot of people that said they didn't know if that was possible because this was a 3-hour and 2-minute film. And there was Shazam still in theaters and a couple other movies are still in theaters that contractually had to be shown on so many screens every day. And so the people worried about longer runtime of the film, not as many screens being available, so that they were like, well, this may not crack the 300 million mark. Well, it ran on more screens than any film in U.S. history has ever ran on.
Wow.
In a lot of, it had 4,662 theaters that carried this movie. Like, that's, huge. The previous record was Despicable Me with like 4,529 theaters that carried it. So the biggest theaters possible. But in a lot of markets, they were running the theaters 24 hours a day over opening weekend so they could try to get in as many showings as possible.
That's insane.
Wow. What?
Yeah, so because you figure, you got a 3-hour movie, you're going to have a little bit of time to like go in and clean up in between. So you're maybe only going to be able to play this show 4 times on a screen in a 24-hour period or in a 12-hour period, right?
Yeah.
So like, all of a sudden if you're like, hey, we're going to double that, we're going to run it 24 hours a day over the weekend. You go from maybe 4 showings a day to now 8 showings a day. So essentially you could double that. So here's the thing. It broke $350 million domestically in its opening weekend.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Crazy. I mean, it's the largest. So it's the largest Thursday preview at $60 million. Previous record was $57 million, Force Awakens. Like I said, the widest opening, the largest Friday opening day and single day at $156 million, which beat out The Force Awakens by about $40 million, basically. The largest Saturday with $109 million, which beats the $82 million of Infinity War. The largest Sunday with $84 million, beating out of Infinity War, which is at $69 million. It's $350 domestic box office, 90% of the movie market share on that opening weekend. That means that of all the theaters and all the films that are being shown, 90% of all screens across almost 5,000 theaters was showing this movie. Like, that is a crazy amount of people that saw this.
Yeah.
It broke records for like April openings, spring openings, PG-13 movie openings, like all these things. The fastest to 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, blah, 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 blah. Because it's just breaking all records. So the real question, it made 1.2 billion worldwide in its opening weekend, which is a crazy number. Now the real question everyone's talking about, and it's only the first weekend, is will this movie beat Avatar, which has like $2.7 million worldwide?
Yes.
I think so.
I really do. This is one of the biggest movies of our generation. This is like Gone with the Wind kind of movie where everybody is going to see this. This is like I said, the culmination of 21 movies. And my prediction before this movie even came out, I'm like, this is going to break $3 billion overall.
Really?
I really do. I think this is going, because I mean, for this movie, for a 3-hour and 2-minute movie to break all of these records, that means like almost every single showing was sold out. And whether they said that the pre-sale tickets were over $1 billion or almost $1 billion,
almost $1 billion,
and just pre-sale tickets. And it had was $1.2 billion, and Infinity War had the previous record at like 640 million. I mean, it's pretty much doubled it. And if Infinity War, how much did Infinity War make? Around $2 billion.
Let's see if I can pull that up here.
So if it was around $2 billion,
I feel around $2 billion.
This is already surpassing Infinity War by double. I mean, I think this is going to be. I mean, like with Britta, what you said about how it hit all of the emotions, and people, if people are seeing this movie and it hits all the emotions, it's hitting them on a personal level. Like, you've been invested with these characters for 11 years. It's not just like, hey, here's one movie, here's an origin story. No, this is people have, it's not just superhero fans are enjoying this. I mean, people are seeing it from all kinds of, generations and ages. People are bringing their kids, you got your 65-year-old man that's going to see. I mean, like, everybody is seeing this. And it's, if they're going to be showing this on 90% of the screens, I don't see this, only making $2 billion. This is going to beat Avatar for sure.
That's crazy. Yeah, I totally agree. My mom, she's like, I'm done with the superhero movies. I'm over them. I don't care. She called me the other day and was like, I think we're going to go see that new Avengers movie. And I was
Right.
like, wait a second, Mom. I'm like, have you seen Avengers Infinity War? She's like, I don't know, which one was that one? I was like, that was the last one that came out. She's like, no. Okay, go watch that first.
Yeah, go watch that first.
Then go see it. So they watched that at home last night, and then they're going to go see it this week. But yeah, like, everybody's going to this movie.
Yeah, so Patrick, to your question, domestically, Infinity War made 678.8, almost 679 million domestic, and then it made 1.3 billion foreign, so it made a little over 2 billion worldwide. And that, like you said,
yeah.
And I mean,
the people who saw Infinity War are going to see Endgame because this is the sequel
Right.
to Infinity War. So
right.
for
So
sure.
so if you think about it, domestically, we're about halfway to a little past halfway of what Infinity War made domestically in its entire run, and we did that on the first weekend.
Yeah.
So even at this point, even if we just match that, and if we were to match the foreign numbers, based on kind of where we're at, like, I definitely think that there's a chance that Endgame is going to break the record that Avatar holds. We may see the first movie to ever cross the 3 billion threshold for a single movie. Now, granted, this is a movie that is a continuation. It's a sequel of another movie, which is nuts in and of itself that a sequel could do that. But it is also the culmination of the 21 other films and all these characters that have gone into this. So it's not like it's just like some random movie that just comes out that, like, it's like big word of mouth like Avatar was. Like, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. There's a lot going into this thing to make this a big success.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the film. So what I found interesting, and I think we should kind of talk about this, is the theme of, you look back at the end of Infinity War, you look at the snap, who are the people that are left behind? I mean, it's really the original Avengers from the first film from 2012. It's Hawkeye, it's Black Widow, it's Iron Man, it's Thor, it's Hulk, and it's Captain America. I mean, it's also it's also Nebula and Rocket Raccoon. And there's a few others, War Machine and whatnot, but realistically, Ant-Man. It's realistically at the end of Infinity War, it's the original 6 Avengers,
Right.
Yeah.
Then with some others. And what I thought that they thematically this film does is that they really focus in on each one of the big Avengers from the original film, and they kind of look at. It's almost like it's like individual, like they're really following like individual movies in a way, because they're really following the stories of these 6 people, right? So we get a story kind of about Black Widow and like how she's trying to hold things together, because we have the events that happen right after Infinity War, and right after Infinity War, like everyone's like feeling beat down, they're struggling with it. And then it's been like 3 weeks, and then they find out where Thanos is. And they want to go and they want to try to reverse it, right? Because we knew that was going to be the idea. They're going to try to go and reverse it. But they get there, and what happens? Thor decides to lop Thanos' head off, and he's kind of, he's really having a hard time dealing with the fact that he could have stopped him and he didn't. And
Right.
all those
And
people died.
And the stones are already destroyed at that point.
And Thanos has destroyed the stones, so they can't go back. They can't do anything, right? So now,
Can't undo it.
now we jump ahead 5 years, and now we start following the individual storylines. So, Black Widow she's trying to hold it together, and like you can tell that like her storyline's focused more on like how do we keep moving forward, right? But like interesting enough, like there's an earthquake that happens under the ocean, and she's like, "Well, what are we doing about this?" And they're like, "It's an earthquake. Like, what do you want?
don't do anything."
Yeah, what do you want us to do, right?" And you can tell like her storyline is like, how do we move forward? How do we keep this thing going? How do we help out? How do we whatever? But she doesn't kind of really know like how to see where things are at, right? The Cap storyline is he's trying to deal with like, regular people and like trying to like have like a support group and like figure out a way to like, kind of like make the most of life what it is, right? Because he's still, gosh, even though it's been 5 years and the snap has happened, like he's still Cap. He is still optimism, right? I mean, he's still that like 1940s American optimism, like, we can overcome anything.
Right.
Let me ask you guys a question. Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye character. Were you guys surprised by the fact that the movie starts off with his family and them getting snapped? Did that surprise either of you?
So it starts off with Hawkeye, Clint, he's, teaching or trying to show his daughter how to fire a bow and arrow and hone her skills. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's happy. This is pre-snap.
Yeah.
And he just turns around. She's gone. He turns right back around. His whole family is gone. And at that point, I was like, as a dad, as a husband, I'm just like, no, this can't be his entire family. And for him to go off this whole tangent to become Ronin, where he was just like murdering these bad people, these cartel, like triad, and all these different bad people. I'm just like, he lost it. Absolutely lost it. Because, he had nothing left.
Yeah, he literally becomes like an assassin, a vigilante assassin, right?
Yeah.
That's what he's kind of doing. And like, he's really kind of suffering with like that PTSD. Like, yeah, he's
hardcore.
making bad choices because he doesn't know how to do anything else, right? That didn't surprise me. I figured that was coming, but it still was very hard to watch as a father.
I didn't know they were going to start the movie off like that. Hey, remember when everyone else died in the end of Infinity War or got snapped?
Here's some more people.
Hey, here's some more. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, I didn't think we were going to. I knew that had to happen, that he would have, but I figured he would have just like showed up at the Avengers headquarters and been like, dude, my family's gone. I'm with you guys. Like, I didn't think we were going to actually see it happen and then watch this huge change. So
yeah,
I wasn't surprised that it happened, but I was surprised in the way they did it.
I like the fact that Tony Stark, the character of Tony Stark, he's in space, he gets rescued by Captain Marvel and brings him back to Earth. I like the fact, though, that his storyline was like, I just want to be with the person I love and I want to move forward with my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, if you go back to the first Avengers movie, when he goes up in outer space and he realizes there's this other world and all these things are going on. And then when he has that vision by Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, he sees all his friends dying and all this death and destruction. And so like his whole outlook since the time of Sokovia has really been about like trying to preserve life and trying to protect those that he loves. And I like the fact that his storyline is like, I'm not embracing the chaos of what happened. I'm going to try to embrace what I still have left while I have it. And I thought narratively that was a really interesting story because like you look back at where his character starts in the first Iron Man movie, and he's a lot like his father was, very self-centered, very out for himself. And slowly over all these films, his character's made a really big character turn. What do you think about him, though, with his daughter? Like, Patrick, you've got a daughter. As a father, watching that interaction where they're like, he's trying to put her to bed, and he's talking about how much, he loves her and how much she loves him. Like, what was that for you? Like, emotionally, like, how did that hit you?
So I kind of related with Tony Stark's character. He's like, the snap happened. I'm going to try to put that behind me because I got a wife. I got a daughter now. I got to look out for them. I can't be chasing bad guys every day. And one of the biggest things, like Britta said, is so emotional. And when he's putting her to bed, and she says, "I love you 3000," I'm like, that is the quote of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that. And I actually did that to my son. I was like, "Hey, Clark, I love you 3000." And he laughed. He's like, "That's a lot." So, yeah, I mean, I could totally, I could totally relate with what he was going through and what direction he wanted his life to go to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was super interesting because throughout these movies, you see the relationship with Tony Stark and Pepper Potts, right? How their relationship progresses. And then, at the beginning of Infinity War, she's begging him, like, take the arc reactor out. Like, you don't need it anymore. Just be with us. Just, like, be with me. Like, just be done being Iron Man. And he's like, yeah, I totally am going to be done. And then, the big thing happens and he runs off and he ends up in space. And then I think, because of that time, he realized I need to focus on something that's not just me, and it just kind of like has that arc and changes to, he has this family, now he has this daughter, and that's what his main thing was. And he was reluctant to come back and help the Avengers when he was usually the first one running out the door. So I thought that was interesting, and I think it really lended itself to his story within this movie and the end.
Yep.
That I'm sure we'll get to.
Yep. So we see Thor 5 years later massively dealing with PTSD, and Thor's packed on a lot of weight.
He's got a beer belly.
He's got a big old beer belly, and he's got this big old, like, unruly, unkempt beard. I love the fact that I literally thought he looked like the Dude, and the fact that they have Tony Stark, even make that comment.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, Lebowski." I was like, dude, that is so freaking awesome.
I laughed so hard, and like no one around me laughed. And I was like, "Do you guys not get this? This is hilarious."
Okay, opening night though, Britta, that got a huge laugh.
Oh, good.
A huge laugh for that moment. The interesting thing about his character, which, by the way, I thought it was a really kind of bold decision to make him a fat version of Thor, because this is Chris Hemsworth. I mean, let's be honest, he's eye candy to a lot of women. And the fact that they pretty much robbed the women of that in this film and did not let that be a thing, I don't think it detracts from the movie, but I think they play it off and they make it really, really funny because, he runs into people he knows and he's trying to, everyone's kind of, making little jabs at him here and there. And I love the fact that they dealt with him having PTSD and really suffering, because I think that's important. But the fact that also, he's threatening people online for, threatening Korg, and they're showing, Korg playing Fortnite, and he's like, "I will come to the basement and I will, put a bolt of lightning up your arse," stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it was a bold move to make Thor, fat. And because imagine
he never got his six-pack back.
He didn't. The whole entire movie, even his suit, you could see it was just a fat suit, just like, oh goodness. I thought it was like when he would, his eyes got white and he got the lightning, he would all of a sudden just
transform.
Yeah, back to his original form, but no, you just kept it.
That's just what it. That's just what it is.
I mean, on behalf of all women, we are sad about this, but let's just remember in this movie we still have America's ass. So.
Yes. Good. Very, very true. And then the last of the original Avengers is the Hulk, which here's my one thing is that this is, 5 years later, and Bruce Banner says, he's accepted the Hulk, and he viewed him as, the problem, but he finds a way to work with him, and so we actually get a version where Banner is hulked out, but he's also retained his intellect and his ability to speak as Banner, and is still really, really smart, but he's walking around in the Hulk form at this point.
And wearing glasses.
Right, which
I was just weird. Whatever.
now it did make for some fun moments and for, some kind of like little, sight gags and some fun stuff. And the whole like, taking like selfies and doing the dab and all that. Like there were some moments there, but for me that wasn't very satisfying because I really love the character of Bruce Banner and the Hulk, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They're like, he's this super, super intelligent guy, but due to the, experiment and the gamma radiation, when he loses his temper, then he becomes the Hulk and he's just this rage monster. And like, that's what they need Banner for the smarts, but then they also need him to bring the Hulk out when it's time to like take care of business, if you know what I'm saying. And this was kind of like, it didn't feel satisfying on either the Banner level or the Hulk level for me. Not that it was bad, not that it was a bad representation, but it was just like, hey, it's been 5 years, I've learned how to control this thing, and I tried to do some other stuff, and like it seems like he's like the most well-adjusted 5 years later. Like I didn't feel that there was like, it felt like there wasn't a lot of like the hey, I'm still struggling of what happened 5 years ago. It seemed like he was pretty much just like, no, life's great. I'm just trying to do, blah 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 blah. I figured a bunch of stuff out. I'm cool. I don't know. How did that strike you? The hulked out Banner still.
One of the most satisfying things about Hulk is when he turns into the Hulk.
Yeah.
Just like it's so awesome. And to not get that through the entire movie was I was let down a little bit. There was one redeeming scene when they go back in time to New York and they see the Hulk run around and smashing things. And they're like, "Hey, why don't you just smash things while you're a little bit?"
Yeah, they're like, "You got to be convincing."
And just like punches a door.
Shoves a car.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm not into this. Come on now.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because we kind of have throughout the movie seen sort of like an evolution of the Hulk. Like the beginning, the original Hulk, like Hulk smash, and that's all he can say, like. Nothing else. And then, Ragnarok, where he's just like hulked out, but like having conversations all the time, which was super weird, but it kind of had to be for the movie. And then now we have this new version of this combined Bruce Banner Hulk, which was fine. On a deep level, it doesn't really bother me. I do like to see the actual like Hulk fighting come out. I missed that. But
yeah,
I don't have that much invested in it, so.
No, that's fine. It was a little bit of a letdown for me, but still, it wasn't bad. It just could have been better. So those are kind of like we're now following the story. It's 5 years later. That's kind of where we're at, right? But the crux of this movie is that Scott Lang comes back out from the quantum realm, and it's been 5 years, and he's all kind of freaked out because for him it's only been 5 hours. Yeah. And he says, and of course, like Scott Lang isn't like a scientist. He's a thief that happened to run into, scientists and kind of got involved. But he starts explaining like, hey, if we could figure out a way to do this, we could go back, we could enter the quantum realm at one point in time and exit at another point in time. And he sells him on this idea of a time heist. And so,
time heist.
So, which
I love that.
Which if there's any one thing I love in movies, and Britta knows this, I love time travel. I love time travel stories. I love time travel ideas. And
right there with you.
And so like, I'm like,
and I just love a good heist.
Yeah. So I'm like, this is great. We're going to get time travel stories. They have to try to go convince Tony Stark because they need his big brain. Mm-hmm. Tony turns him down because he does not want to give up what he has in the future, which I know that they're still going to have to do this as I'm watching this. I know that they're going to have to get into the time stuff because otherwise, how do you go back and reverse whatever, right? Part of me started worrying though, like, what happens if they reverse everything and it wipes out the 5 years and like he doesn't have Pepper, he's not married to Pepper, and he doesn't have like the daughter, and like that would be horrible for him, which of course is one of the things eventually when he solves the idea of like, how do you control the quantum realm so you can get to the right place in time and safely get back. That's one of his conditions. Like, when we do this, we're going to put everything back, everything we lost, but we're not going to give up what we've got this last 5 years either. Which I thought is time travel wise is a very interesting concept, because usually with time travel, you go back, you change something, and you undo something, and it goes back to where you were to when the change occurred, right? That's most time travel stories.
Right. I feel like they kind of changed the rules a little bit, because they talk, they're like, specifically like, Ant-Man was saying, you can't talk to your previous self and you can't do this. And he's like, is everything you know about time travel from Back to the Future? Yeah. So, but that's like the rules that we know, right? Is from Back to the Future, pretty much. That's the rule. You don't talk to your previous self. You can't like run into people and stuff like, but I feel like they kind of changed the rules about time travel, like that we know from movies. So, because there isn't real time travel.
Well, that's the thing,
as
though.
As far as we know,
that's the thing, though, Brita, you bring up is, and they even make that kind of tongue in cheek, because they say like Back to the Future, Terminator, Time Cop, Time After Time. Like they start mentioning all these like time travel, Hot Tub Time Machine. They're mentioning all these time travel movies, of which there's plenty.
yes.
But they do make a very convincing case that like if you go back in time to change something, that is no longer your past. That's now your present, because time is linear.
Right.
So you're still moving forward. So the time you just left to go back in time, that is now your past. So you can't do something chronologically in the past to change your own past. So basically they're saying like, you can go back in time and you could do something, but you can't change your own past, because then otherwise you would never get here to change it in the first place. It kind of creates this whole like loop idea, right? A time loop. And
time travel just confuses me.
Right. And so that's basically like the whole point. But they decide that they're going to go back in time to steal the Infinity Stones when there's an opportunity, because the stones in the future are gone. So they've got to go back into the past to steal them, which I love this idea because it makes total sense. We have the ability to time travel now, which if 21 movies ago, when the first Iron Man movie came out, you said like, hey, eventually we're going to tell a time travel story about traveling in time to get a whole bunch of stones to undo a bunch of stuff. And we're going to, it's going to be this Doctor Who kind of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey type of story. You would have been like, yeah, that's not going to work. But like, we've been led down the primrose path to get to a point where we accept things like quantum realms and quantum travel and, the Infinity Stones and all these other things, right, that lead us to that moment.
Yeah.
When they start talking about this, Patrick, was there any doubt in your mind that we were going to go back in time to scenes from established MCU movies? Was there any doubt that that was going to be the case?
Before seeing the movie?
No,
Or,
as the movie was unfolding, because before the movie, there was some fan speculation that there was going to be time travel involved, but that's all it kind of was. But as the movie's unfolding, like, did you think, they're just going to go back into a time like we haven't seen, and they're going to show something and maybe like drop in a few people? Or were you just like dead set, like we're going back to existing movies we've already seen?
No, I thought they were just going to go to make a whole new different scenes. I didn't think they were going to actually go to the fight in New York. They were going to, the fight in New York, like so many things happened. Like the Doctor Strange's mentor, I can't remember her name right now. She was
Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah, she was in New York at the time, which is crazy. Like, I didn't know she was in New York. And I was not expecting to actually see the same scenes. Well, from a different point of view.
See okay, this is the point I've been dying to talk about with someone. It is literally Back to the Future 2. Because you think about it, in Back to the Future 2, he goes back into the past to 1955 again because the future gets messed up. So he's got to go back to the same scene where he sees his future. He sees himself from the past that's traveled to the past at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. But like now we see it all from like a different perspective, right? But we see the same scenes. And I'm like, they're doing freaking Back to the Future 2 after just mentioning, don't tell me all the time travel you know is based off Back to the Future. I saw the irony there. I loved it, and I wanted to talk with someone about it. But been refusing to talk about it up until today. So
Yeah, I mean, it was so cool because they knew what was going to happen.
Right.
They have all that knowledge from the past. Like, okay, this is where things were. This is the stuff that happened. You know, they're up in the Avengers Tower, and Captain America he's gonna go down the elevator.
Yeah.
To grab the scepter with the one of the stones.
Yeah.
And he's in there, and he already knows what he's gonna do, and he just whispers to that guy. He's like, "Hail Hydra!" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no way!"
Like, that was awesome.
So crazy.
And they just looked at him as he walked out with that briefcase. Oh my goodness!
Which
they
is
are so smart.
So smart. Which also is funny because in like the comics, eventually, like in one of the comic runs, like Captain America is a member of Hydra. And so like just the fact that it's like kind of like tongue in cheek, right? Like they know how to play off like comic fan service, you know, to some stuff from the comic books, but also make it fit into the movies. Like that was brilliant. The fact that they, you know, go after the Tesseract, which has got the Space Stone in it, you know, because the Mind Stone's in the scepter, the Tesseract has the Space Stone, and then the Time Stone is over on Bleecker Street with the Sorcerer Supreme. Like 3 stones are present during 2012's Battle of New York.
Right.
But the fact that what I loved was that Loki manages to get the Tesseract and use it to escape, and which changes some things. But what it really does is it provides an opportunity so that now timelines have shifted and changed. Loki possibly does not die or is not now dead anymore in what, you know, would be their past, you know, but mostly Loki's future, because we know we're getting a Loki series over on the streaming service Disney Plus. Now there's an out for how Loki can still be alive. Brilliant, freaking brilliant.
Yeah, when I saw that, when he grabbed that Tesseract and he just vanished, I'm like, oh yeah, I know why they did that. He's going to be alive. He's going to be able to do his TV show. It's not going to be. It could be a prequel, but it also could be.
Doesn't have to be though.
A whole nother one. Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I totally thought the same thing. I was like, yes, maybe he won't actually be dead now.
Yeah, because Tom Hiddleston's an amazing actor, and he plays that role so well. So we have all 3 in New York, but the Tesseract is now gone. So it's disappeared. So now there's this dilemma that they only have enough Pym particles to make one trip there and one trip back. And then Tony and Cap decide they've got to go back further into time in order to go to a place where they can get more Pym particles to make a return trip and get the Tesseract. So where do they go? They go back to the place, you know, what they say, kind of like the birthplace of Captain America, basically where the idea was. They go back into the 1970s. And of course, this is even like further like Back to the Future-esque time travel, because Tony Stark runs into his father, Howard Stark, which is reminiscent of Marty McFly running into his mom and dad. And he has this whole conversation about like raising kids and like, you know, him having a, you know, Howard's,
and what they're gonna name him,
right? Well, yeah, what they're gonna name him and all that. And I was like, oh, this is just brilliant. This is like tongue in cheek, but they have to, you know, get Pym particles. The heartbreaking moment though for me, like all the stuff with Howard Stark and Tony Stark, I think is great. Like it's just good. It's heartwarming. It's fun. It's kind of lighthearted, but you also kind of see the hurt in Tony's eyes, knowing that like he's having a chance to like basically say goodbye to his dad that he didn't have the chance to. And like, as a son who lost his father and didn't have a chance to see him, like that scene, even though they played it lighthearted, like that struck a chord in me. And I was like, nope, not gonna cry, just relax. This is a movie. This is not real life. This is a movie. This is, you know, like hold it in, Spencer. But the moment when you see Captain America look through the window and see Peggy Carter, like
that killed me.
Ooh, just
like, because you know he's thinking in that moment, he's like, I could just stay.
Yeah.
I could just stay.
But
and we could be together and we could be happy and I don't have to go back. I could give this stuff to Stark and be done.
But his moral compass will not let him do that.
No.
It just won't. I loved that. I love that. So like there's kind of like the storyline there. We also have Thor and Rocket going back to Asgard in 2014 because they're going to try to use this little device to extract the Reality Stone from Jane Foster, which surprisingly enough, Natalie Portman was credited with acting in this movie. They actually used unused footage of her from Thor: The Dark World, and then she did a little bit of voiceover work that you kind of like hear her when she's like passing in the background. And that was all that she really did to contribute to this film. So it wasn't like really like new footage that was shot. But we do see a Thor conversation with his mom. Britta, what did you think of that? I mean, Thor, Chris Hemsworth, like he's your guy. What did you think of that whole like interaction with seeing his mom in the past?
It was another one of those just kind of emotional moments because he's going through something really, really difficult for him. And it's kind of one of those things where you're just like, I just need my mom, you know, like that's what it felt like. It just felt like I just need my mom. And she was there and she kind of like figured out that he was from the future. She kind of knew what was happening, but just like, I'm here to help you, and gives him that motherly advice that he needs to like pull his big boy pants on and, you know, get going with what he needed to do. I thought that was a good scene. And I mean, everyone kind of gets these moments throughout the movie, you know, where, you know, like the Tony Stark with his dad and stuff like that. Everyone gets these moments to say goodbye to people that they know they're not going to see again, because he knows he could try and save his mom right now, but he really can't. And what's done is done. And so there's just a bunch of those moments that just are very, like I said, emotional, but they just did them so well. I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah, what did you think of that, Patrick? Was that a satisfying moment, a payoff? Because realistically, like we are focusing on the original Avengers, and they're getting all this kind of screen time leading up to, you know, the resolution here. What did you think of that with the chat with his mom?
I thought it was pretty cool because he was broken up after the snap, and you know you could tell by his beer belly, and being able to go back to Asgard when his mom was still alive. You know, he's like this is the day she dies. You know, like he remembers that. You know, like it tore him up then. It's tearing him up even more now in the state that he is in, and he just can't keep it together. And his mom, being a mom, just sees right through him, you know, like knows who he is, and knows that he's from a different time.
Right.
It was really cool because that's what moms do. Moms can just look at you and just know either the emotions you're feeling, the hurt you're feeling, where you are in your head. So it was kind of cool. I really liked that.
And I also like the fact that his mom says, you know, you need to stop trying to be who everyone expects you to be, and you just need to be yourself. And I think that idea resonates with a lot of people, because there's a lot of pressures, you know, that we get that either we put on ourselves or that family can put on us, or, you know, our careers can put on us. And that, like, that's just a very good lesson in general. Like, don't be the people that, you know, people want you to be or expect you to be. Be who you are. And I thought that was good. And of course, I love the fact that he calls Mjolnir to himself, and he's like, yes, I still have it. I'm still worthy. Because he doesn't feel worthy. Like, that's the thing. Is like, he feels like he's such a screw up, that he messed up everything, that like he doubts himself. But then when the hammer comes to him after what his mom just said, like, it's that moment where he realizes, like, yes, I can do this. I am still worthy to wield this. Like, I should be doing this, and I should go forward. And that's like the turning point, I think, for his character.
Yeah, it's going to like a quote from Tyrion Lannister on Game of Thrones. So, you know, he said something like, "People are going to have their opinions about you. You have to be you, and you have to own up to who you are. Wear it like armor, and then nobody can hurt you."
Yeah, absolutely. Banner convinces the Sorcerer Supreme to get the Time Stone. But we get in that scene a very interesting thing. We find out that, hey, this is going to cause branching realities of time if the stones aren't brought back. And the whole idea, Banner says, like, we will promise to put all the stones back the moment after we take them. We'll come back in time, which is a very important plot point because if they don't do it, it's going to branch out and change all sorts of other realities, right?
Right.
But she is convinced after knowing that Stephen Strange willingly gave up the Time Stone. She says, okay, basically, here it is, go ahead. The last one, though, is the hardest one, I think, of them all. That's the Soul Stone. You got Hawkeye and you got Black Widow, and they go to Vormir, and we know from Avengers Infinity War, someone's going to have to die. As a fan, as a viewer, we know that. The characters don't know that. They eventually come to that conclusion. I had a problem with this scene, if I'm being perfectly honest, guys. I went, why wouldn't Barton... Barton wants it to be him, but why wouldn't Natasha, why wouldn't she let it be Barton, knowing that he doesn't have really anything else to live for, and he's done a lot of bad stuff, and he's trying now to make a noble sacrifice to try to maybe fix some of that with us. Why wouldn't she let him go?
Well, wasn't the whole like point of what Tony Stark says, like, hey, we're going to bring everyone back from 5 years ago. So he's got a family that he can look forward to if she dies instead of him.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking too, that she knows that he should be there for his family if they do this right successful. And make it. Yeah, if they're successful, so that he can be there for his family and, hopefully feel redeemed or whatever. But obviously they both want to sacrifice for it because, that's just kind of who they are at this point.
Yeah.
I felt really like kind of torn between that scene because I get what you guys are saying, but at the same time I was like, Hawkeye can go away and I'm okay with that. Also, like if I'm just being honest, like, I like the Black Widow character better than I like the Hawkeye character. So that was kind of hard to watch because they couldn't decide, and eventually, one of them has to die. And it's a permanent, like it seems to be a very permanent thing. Like there's not going to be coming back.
This is one of my questions. So they have to take all these Infinity Stones so they can create their own gauntlet. But when they have to put them all back, if they put this Soul Stone back to where it was, would that bring Natasha back to life? That's like, is that...
Good question.
Because they're going to put it back right in the same time where this happened. Would that eventually make her...
I think putting
all
the stones back only keeps the flow of time going and not branching. It doesn't reset things. Like they were going to use the snap ability to reset things, but they couldn't. They even said, like, Hulk says, "I tried to bring Nat back." The snap isn't going to. She is in the Soul Stone. Like that sacrifice had to be there. But when they put the stones back, that's just basically to keep other branching realities. It doesn't reset time.
Yeah, plus Red Skull, he said what happens cannot be undone.
Oh, okay.
He specifically says that what happens here cannot be undone. So it's one of those hard points of, reality, like Gamora's death can't be undone. She's gone, so.
But interesting enough, though, now in the future, like where we're currently at, because Gamora from the past came forward in time, now Gamora exists in the future. But
so did she not go back? That's what I was confused about. Did she stay because we didn't see her?
That's the thing.
With the Avengers?
We don't.
The Guardians?
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know if she went back or if she was snapped out. That was one of the things, like, it was not shown what her fate was.
Because, okay, there's just stuff that gets really confusing for me, right? So, like, the whole Nebula thing, the Nebula from the past, the Nebula from the present. Which, was it the past Nebula that got shot, right?
Yes.
So, the present Nebula, she was there at the end.
Yep.
So, why wouldn't Gamora still be there? because she was with
Well, that's the thing is
Thanos.
Rita, that's the thing I'm saying is like we just don't know because they didn't show it.
I know.
So it's all
They're
just
breaking
I'm just
their own
theorizing.
rules in this time travel.
right.
I know.
So
I'm just confused.
yeah.
And I want to know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You're just going to have to wait and see because obviously some things happen. So we get all the soul stones. Hulk, because it's gamma radiation, he's the one to do the snap. It brings back everyone. And which is great because, we see family and, we see, oh, hey, look, it looks like everyone's back. And then immediately, boom, Thanos destroys the Avengers, facility. And now it's like the fight is on to like keep the gauntlet from Thanos. We get this big, massive fight. What did you guys think of the big fight between literally like the OG 3 Avengers, Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America versus Thanos? Like, how did that strike you, Patrick?
It was just like the one of the best fight scenes in the movie. I mean, like up until this point, it is very, some of the scenes were very quiet. It was all leading up to this. And seeing, I mean, one of the biggest things is when Captain America grabs a hold of Mir.
Yeah.
And it was like and then Thor's like, I knew it.
Right.
It was just so like, oh my gosh, because back in, what was it, Age of Ultron, he kind of like moved it off the table just like a millimeter. And now he is.
They just like hinted.
Right, yeah. And then he's the one that's worthy to hold that. And there was a point where they were, Thor and Captain America both had one of the hammers, and then Thor's like, here, you take the small one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, give me the axe back.
I mean, in this huge battle, they're still able to make you laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really loved a lot of that, and it was just really satisfying seeing them fighting together, seeing, them using the two, I don't know what the axe is called, if it's Mjolnir 2 now.
No, Stormbreaker.
There you go. That's what it was. I forget there was an actual name. So,
That's
yeah,
a bit
like,
much.
yeah. And like just the way that they actually, you can see them being like so in sync together and they're fighting, and Thor using the lightning and helping out Tony Stark and all that stuff. Like, it was just cool.
I thought it was very well choreographed, like the fight, like the idea of like, we're going to fight him on three different fronts. We're going to attack him with everything we got. And like it was intense. But man, even without the Infinity Stones, Thanos is just still a beast. I mean, so
he's inevitable.
He is inevitable. Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing though for me is I'm sitting in the theater on the Thursday night opening night, and we're watching it, and it's looking like they're all down and out, right? Like it looks like Cap is about ready to die. And I think that the way they paced this film, that they really made it seem like from the time when the battle starts, that all of our heroes, all of these Avengers are in literally mortal peril at all times. And they keep like increasing the stress. And I was like, no, oh my gosh, no. I'm getting really,
who's dying?
I'm getting really worried. And then we hear the, Cap, can you read me? Rogers, do you read me? And it's Sam, it's Falcon who's been snapped out. And then all of a sudden you see in the background the big kind of circle of Doctor Strange opening up, and out steps T'Challa, Black Panther, and then you see all of these open up, and, out comes the Guardians of the Galaxy, out comes, Doctor Strange, out comes all these people from Wakanda. And then when Spider-Man like swings out, literally out of all of the characters that showed up, and there was tons of great characters, the theater went nuts. The theater just went nuts when Peter Parker swings forward and we see him on screen. Because I think that emotional moment in Infinity War between Tony and Peter Parker still is like stuck in everyone's like hearts and minds. And so to see him back, like the place just went nuts. Also, like this is the showdown, right? Now this is like everyone is here. It's not like Infinity War where you have some people up in space fighting Thanos and then the rest down on Earth fighting, his minions and everything. This is now everyone's together. Ant-Man's there, Valkyrie, Pepper Potts, Captain Marvel shows up and takes down the big ship. Like everyone is there. This fight scene doesn't go on for very long as far as like film. I think the fight scene in Infinity War was probably a little longer. At least that's the way it felt to me once everyone shows up. What was the satisfying moments in that fight for you guys? Britta, I'll go with you first.
Well, frankly, one of the very first things that was the most satisfying and began many of my tears was the Spider-Man Iron Man meet up, when Tony Stark goes and gives
the hug,
Peter Parker a big hug, and he's like, oh, this feels nice. Like just the tears, the tears, like all the tears. But yeah, I mean, there were some good moments. They of course had like the big, female empowerment moment when Captain Marvel has the gauntlet, and she's got to get it over to the van, and someone was like, well, how's she going to get it over there? And they're all like, with help. And like literally every female that's there is like all of a sudden behind her, which was a little unrealistic that all of a sudden they're all like in that
immediately
space.
Happened, yeah.
Yeah, but they were making a point and they were doing this like very specifically. But it was like it was a cool moment to see all of, I mean, because there was like way more of them than you realize. There's like the general from Wakanda. There's I think Michelle Pfeiffer was in there with the Wasp and her, and like just there was like 15 of them or something. I was surprised, and that was a pretty cool moment. I liked that.
Yep. What about you, Patrick? What was one of your big standout moments from the fight scene?
Well, there's a couple of them. It started off when everyone started coming through like the Doctor Strange time warps, and Falcon just says, on your left. And
yes.
I'm like,
yes.
What a callback to Winter Soldier, when, Cap is just running circles around him, like, on your left. And then I was like, oh yeah, like that's something that small that if you're not as invested, it would just be another,
like,
thing
over your head.
Over your head.
Yeah.
But they throw those little things in there, the people who know a lot about these movies, and for that to start off like on your left, I'm like, yes, this is great. And then just out of nowhere, Pepper Potts just shows up in an Iron Man suit. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. What? I want to see this origin. Like, is it the past 5 years she's been training? Like, what?
Well, you kind of saw that in Iron Man 3, if you remember, like she was in an Iron Man suit, and he does show Tony making the helmet for Pepper. And he's like, I'm making this for your mom, although she never wears anything I buy her. He kind of says that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
there was a little foreshadowing for sure. But I'm like, oh man, this is like everybody is in this. I mean, Pepper Potts has got a suit on and she's helping out. This is awesome. I was like, where's Morgan? Who's got Morgan?
Yeah. I literally was thinking the same thing. I'm like, she's probably with Happy.
Probably true. Happy Hogan.
But yeah, those were two really cool moments in this big battle that, like, I didn't see Pepper Potts have a suit on and helping out. I mean, like, she was holding her own out there.
Yep.
So that was one of those things. I'm like, okay, cool. And then when Peter Quill sees Gamora for the first time, he's like filled with emotion, like, what, and then it goes right back to where where they first started, where he puts his hand on her, and then she's just like, does she knee him in the groin?
Yeah, twice.
Twice. And then you missed the first time, but the second time. But yeah, I'm like, oh man, it was a nice callback to have where their relationship started. So that was really cool. Yeah, there's so much in that scene.
I'm totally with you. Like, it was the small moments in the less on like certain like the big cool like fight stuff, but like the small moments where you see Gamora and Peter Quill, Star-Lord, meet, and Peter's like, you got to be kidding me! Like, you're here. That it was the the Peter Parker and Tony reunion,
Mm-hmm.
but also as little things like the little callbacks. So like, for instance, like when Spider-Man like says like, you know, they're all kind of gathering around. It's like, okay, activate instant kill mode. And like, then the little, you know, the little spider tentacles come out and they start just immediately like killing, boom, 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 boom. Because that's a freaking callback to Spider-Man Homecoming where he's going through the whole things. He's like, instant kill mode. Why would I ever need this? And so it's just like little things like that, so cleverly done that for me it was the little moments in the fight scene that contributed to the character development and the characters as a whole. I thought was really great. But for me, knowing that Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. are on expiring contracts and they have stated that this was going to be their last movie, Patrick and I were talking about this. We were saying like, hey, both of these guys are going to die, you know, because they've got to, because otherwise if you don't do something with their characters, they're not going to be in any other movies. The fact that we see the Hulk do the snap to revert everyone, but then, you know, Thanos is like inches away from snapping his fingers again and undoing the entire world so he can remake it so there's no memory of it ever being a world without all of that. But Tony managing to steal all of the Infinity Stones and put it on his gauntlet, which I knew the moment that Tony built a gauntlet that was based out of his Iron Man suit, I knew that there was no way we weren't going to see Tony wearing that.
Right.
And so when he gets it and he does the snap, but his snap is basically to wipe out all of Thanos's, you know, all of Thanos's minions,
Children
and
of Thanos.
all the children of Thanos. And then you see Thanos sit down, and then you slowly see him start to, you know, to go to dust. That was a satisfying moment, but I immediately knew that there was no way Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark character was going to survive. Like I knew that was the end, and that's how he was going to go out. He was going to go out doing what he needed to do to protect everyone. But the moment, and I told this to Britta, like I had a hard time trying not to get teared up at this because it's a throwback to the first movie. The last line he speaks when he's alive is he says, "I am Iron Man."
Oh my gosh, it was so satisfying. You know, like Thanos is like, "I am inevitable," and then he's just like, "I am Iron Man," and just snaps. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So good.
So freaking good. And
I'm pretty sure I like cheered out loud in the movie theater at that moment.
yeah, which got a huge cheer in opening night, then almost immediately followed by you heard people go, "No, no." I heard someone go, "No, no, no." Like that. It's like, well, I mean, what do you expect at this point? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it did a number on the Hulk, who is like made of gamma radiation and could take it.
Right.
Yep.
Tony's just a man underneath that armor. So obviously we lose Tony. We get a big emotional send off, and this amazing funeral. Here's the question: did you know who the young man? Like when they're kind of showing all the little groups that are there, did you notice that there was one young man that did not like fall into like any of like the established kind of MCU groups? Did you know who that young man was, Patrick?
No. I was like, when they zoomed in and they're going through all the characters and they zoom on this boy, I'm like, the heck? Who's this guy? I don't remember this guy at all.
So I thought the same thing, so I went and looked it up after the fact. It's the little boy Harley from Iron Man 3, the little boy that takes in Tony when Tony's suffering from the PTSD when he's like in the middle of nowhere, Ohio.
Yeah.
And he takes him into his garage and like he kind of helps him get back on his feet. Like that was that kid.
That's the kind of fan service this
That's
movie
awesome.
provided. You know, like,
Yeah.
what?
What I also
Like, I didn't know. I didn't even I saw the movie. I saw that kid. I was like, I don't know who that is. Let's move on. You know. And then I started talking to some people at work, and they're like, "Did you know who that boy was?" Like, I still didn't know. I didn't even think about it. And then they said it was from Iron Man 3. I'm like, wow, man, this movie was so good.
What I also like though is that they kind of started off by showing like Pepper and his daughter Morgan, and Happy, and then they kind of showed the Avengers, and they kind of started moving from like people who were closest to him to like all the other kind of groups. And then the very last person you see that's at the funeral in the back is Nick Fury, the man who kind of kicked off the whole Avengers initiative and basically recruited Tony Stark and got him on board. That like they showed kind of him last, and that Samuel L. Jackson didn't have a single line in the whole film, but like just having him there like felt like, yeah, that's how this funeral would really be. Like, and the callback with the little arc reactor that said proof that Tony has a heart.
Yeah.
Like,
Cool.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, just the heart tugging and the heartstrings and
Yeah, I love this scene, the way they did it, because once again, just like literally like crocodile tears, like full on bawling in the theater at this, because I just cried everything, people, and this was super emotional, so I was crying. But I love the way that they did the whole scene with, you know, like no talking, it was just quiet, it was just the music, it was going through the people, the way they set it up, and like the groups and the way they had them spread out and back and forth and like just stretching back. Like it was just beautiful visually. But also like really started with that really strong, you know, sad emotion, and then kind of stretched out to like, look at all these people that he's affected their lives, that he's helped them come together. Like he did this, he started this, right? And it just sort of walked you through the entire MC universe right there in that one shot, which was pretty cool.
yeah. And then of course we know the last part, they got to take back the stones. Cap says he's going to take it back. He's also going to take back Mjolnir to return it back to the timeline. And then Cap doesn't come back. And the interesting thing is then we see Bucky look up and like, you know, kind of point off the distance, and Falcon Sam looks over there and sees an old man. Sam goes over there, talks. It's actually Cap, but he's now what he approximately should be age-wise. He's really, really old. And he turns his shield over to Sam and says, like, you know, this is yours now. You're going to be him. And then we realize, oh, hey, you know, he's wearing a wedding ring. And he says, you know, you want to tell me about her? And he says, no. And then the last shot, we see him in the past with Peggy. And they're dancing, and they're in their home. Britta, you look like you're almost in tears right now just talking about that.
I'm like, this was honestly like, I frequent, like, for reals, I'm like getting teared up right now just thinking about it. This was like the best part of this whole movie, and in my opinion, the absolute perfect ending to the movie, and also perfect ending for Captain America. He got to go back and live this whole life that's what he always wanted. That's what he wanted. He just wanted to find somebody that he loved and settle down.
Not someone, Peggy.
No, Peggy specifically, because he carried her picture around with him for 70 plus years. But, you know, like it was just like seeing the two of them slow dancing, which is, you know, obviously a callback to the first Avenger. And when he's just like, you know, she says, "You owe me a dance," and he's like, "Okay." And that's what he always talks about. I missed my dance. I owed somebody a dance, and that's how it ends, is their dance. And it was just like beautiful and poignant, and just like, whoever said there wasn't any romance in superhero movies had no idea. Like, it was the most romantic thing that's ever happened in any of these movies, and I just loved it.
Something also interesting of note is when Peggy's dying, like, we know that Peggy married someone and lived a happy life with him, but we never know anything about him, and she never says anything about him either. And so a lot of people say, well, obviously, you know, this happened. The question, though, is a lot of people said, well, this really would break the time travel aspect, because if he goes back and he, you know, goes back to her, you know, post, you know, like kind of like around the 1970s or something, post, you know, all the other stuff that took place, and then lives out his life with her, which doesn't look like the 1970s when they're playing the music. This is like, this looks like he goes back to her like right after he went in the ice, right in the 40s.
Yeah.
There's a big theory out there right now that he actually did not return one of the last stones until after he'd lived out his life and Peggy died. Then he went back and returned the last stone to that moment in time, because that way he was living in basically a alternate branch of reality with Peggy. And the Russo brothers have basically said that that could be quite a possibility, that they left that open so that that could have been a thing, and then he would have worked his way back, put the stone back. That timeline then basically would have disappeared and kind of faded and not existed, and now that's why he's coming back to give the shield out. Do you think that that really, Patrick, is the way it worked out, or do you just want to think that it happened in the main Prime timeline?
So I got a couple of things on this. Like, that theory is a very good theory. But do you remember earlier in the movie where it took teams of people to get these stones?
Yeah.
And you're only using one person to put them back?
Yeah.
Like, I don't, how is he going to do that by himself? Is he just going to, just throw them over there at someone's feet and then run away? Like, like, oh, what's this? So why is the Tesseract sitting here? Which is another question. Like, these are all now stones. They're not in the same form as they were when they took them.
Yeah, right.
Like, how is he going to get it back? Like, so like the Tesseract is a cube,
Yep.
the other stone, what was it? The
ether,
the scepter,
yeah,
whatever.
Oh no, the Mind Stone, yeah, which
they
crushed
all
and put
have
in
their
vision.
own
Yeah.
forms. And like, how are they going to get it back? Like, how does that work? Is he just going to get some clay out?
That's a
and just,
very interesting question.
And what about the fact that we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy that no one could actually hold the Power Stone by itself because it totally destroyed them? Like, what happened with that? They just, forgot about that, I feel like, in this movie. Because people just were holding it. It's fine.
Thanos, Thanos does hold it.
Sure, but he's the one who's got, the power to have it or whatever. But just, a Captain America,
Yeah.
he doesn't have, that kind of power to just hold that
and
stone.
they were contained in some sort of a device, that was the
Yeah.
briefcase. Yeah, you guys are right though. Like, that's the thing, is with time travel movies, especially time travel movies that try to establish new rules to time travel, they seemingly broke some of their own rules, and they broke some kind of pre-established rules that most people will accept in time travel movies already. And I'm fine with saying hey, the time travel rules you take as being true really are crap, and that's not how it works. This is how it really works. And then setting out, I'm okay with that. That's fine. It's a movie. I can suspend my disbelief. But it did seem like they did kind of trample all over their own rules quite a bit. And you know what? That's something I think most people are going to overlook. But Patrick brings up this great point. The Tesseract is a cube. The Space Stone, though, inside of it is not a cube anymore. How do you go back? How do you go back to that moment where it's still the Tesseract's there, right before it goes, and then immediately put that back? It's changed physical properties.
Yeah.
So
That's a good
there's
question.
some science there that doesn't exactly bear out. But this is a superhero movie.
Yes,
Maybe we're looking at it a little too detailed, but I mean,
We're here to ask the hard questions.
so anyway, this movie, I mean, it was going to be doing big business, I think, anyway. But there was a $200 million marketing campaign that went into this. I don't know if you guys knew that number, but promotions with the Stand Up to Cancer, MasterCard, Ulta Beauty, Audio e-tron, which we saw an Audi e-tron concept car in the film, McDonald's, Geico, Coca-Cola, Google, General Mills, Hertz, Ziploc, Oppo, and Synchrony Financial. That's a ton of promotional partners for this film. We saw teaser trailers and we saw bigger trailers, TV spots, all the kind of normal fare. But we were also seeing things posted all over the internet and all sorts of hey, come to do this and you can win this, and we're going to do these big, 60-hour marathon of, all the MCU movies at once. And do you think that big of a marketing campaign was necessary, Patrick, in order to promote this movie? Or do you think this movie still would have done these numbers without $200 million spent?
See, going back to our podcast that I did a month ago, I could have seen none of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely none of it, and I would have seen this movie. But I did want to ask you, based on this marketing campaign, did you notice if they put in Okoye in the posters on the walls? Did you see?
I didn't
if
even
they changed
look.
that? Because you were like, I don't think they're going to reprint this. No.
I didn't even look.
Okay, I totally forgot. To look.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go drive over to the AMC tomorrow. I'll leave work a couple minutes early. I'll drive over to the AMC and walk in and take a look.
Okay.
Because they've got a big stand, like a big cardboard stand up. I want to go take a look and see. Because if they did, that's a lot of money for reprinting.
It's a big chunk of change. No wonder it was $200 million.
No kidding. Huh. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, Brita, what do you think? 200 million? I mean, it seems like chump change knowing that it made 1.2 billion on its opening weekend. But I mean,
yeah, but I don't think it was needed to the extent that they did it. I think they could have just like literally just had a black screen that said Avengers Endgame. Bam. That's it. That would have been enough for most people. You know what I mean? But I mean, maybe they felt like they had to do that so they could try and break the records, you know, to get more and more people.
Maybe.
Maybe that's the reason. But I mean
let's be honest. It made a grundle of money opening weekend. It's holding like a 95% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. You know, critics and fans alike are loving this thing. So I mean, maybe 200 million was a lot, maybe not. I don't know.
How does that relate to other movies? Is that like the biggest budget for marketing campaign of any movie?
I do think it is. I know that there was 150 million that was spent on Infinity War. Endgame for sure has the largest budget of any of the MCU films. I don't know about all time. I mean, gosh, Star Wars. I mean, all the cross-promotional stuff with Star Wars. I would think that maybe like The Force Awakens probably spent more money because they were trying to re-jump a franchise that had been, you know, trampled on by the prequels. So maybe more there, but that's something that definitely would be interesting to kind of look at to see. Big movie, huge movie, obviously. This thing I think is going to break all records. It's going to go on and on and on. What do you think are going to be some of the lasting effects of this film? I mean, character-wise, we no longer have Tony Stark. We no longer have Captain America as in the Steve Rogers Captain America. We don't have Black Widow, it looks like. We don't have Gamora in the form we're used to. Those seem to be like the pretty much permanent deaths. Although you could say Gamora we may still get because she may still be around. Loki I would have said was gone, but it looks like, you know, we know we're going to have Loki again. Does it surprise you, though, that we're down 3 of the original Avengers? Black Widow, Cap, and Iron Man?
No, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, like, this is the movies these people have done for 11 years. You know, there has to be the new Avengers, whoever those people are. We need to get a new set of story, a new villain like Thanos. Who that is, we don't know yet. There's a lot of different options. That they can. There's a villain that does time travel. That could be. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. There's Galactus.
Yeah.
There's so many big names right there. That we'll just have to find out. But yeah, I think it's good that we have some sort of closure, some sort of finality with the Avengers. End of their story. I mean, like, Iron Man started it all and he ended it all. So it was a good bookend, good arc for him. So it's good we need to move on to the new phase.
And we know that Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be technically the last film of the phase 3 of the MCU. And then we're going to get new stuff. I mean, we're all assuming Black Panther 2. We're all assuming Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, probably with Thor.
Yep.
We know that there's a Black Widow movie that's kind of in the works. Let's make this the question of the week. with the remaining people, what movies do you want to see? Like, what characters do you want to see movies of the most now going forward? Patrick, I'll start with you.
I'm looking forward to Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Is that what you're asking? Just a sequel, or
Yeah,
just,
like sequels, or like, continuing storylines with people that are left from.
Okay,
Endgame.
so there's two. There's one that's Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I like to see like we have like a plot right now. Is it going to be the search for Gamora? And
Right.
with Thor, because one of the greatest scenes in Infinity War was when Thor came on the Guardians ship, and Peter is trying to talk the same way as Thor.
Right.
Just like it was so funny. So I want to see that. But now that Iron Man's gone and Pepper Potts is kind of Iron Woman or whatever she is in the comics, I would like to see that. A continuation of that, because Happy is still alive. Morgan, his daughter, still alive. Is there something going to happen with that? I don't know. That's that. But I would like to see something like that. I want to see a new movie, but still within the Iron Man universe. I think that would be pretty cool.
What about you, Brita?
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely looking forward to the next Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor, because we've seen in Infinity War the dynamic that they have together, and then at the end of this movie where they're, debating over who's the captain and who's in charge,
Right.
and we know who's in charge. We know.
So good.
We know. Like, that's just great. Like, that's just going to be a fun, that's going to be a total mix of Ragnarok and the Guardians of the Galaxy's movies. Like, that's going to be awesome. Also, very excited for a new Black Panther movie. I loved the first one. I think they can do some really cool things with that whole story, and maybe like his little sister a little bit more and stuff, because I think she's a really cool character. As far as everyone else goes, I don't know. I haven't read enough comic books to really kind of figure that out. So
let me tell you mine.
That's going to be
then.
my answer.
For me, it's Spider-Man. I mean, I know we're getting far from home, but like, I want to see more of the Tom Holland Spider-Man in the MCU. I think that there's a lot of good stuff that they can do there. I do want to see Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor. I think Thor basically kind of got a reboot in Thor Ragnarok. They changed him from being less super serious, taking himself way too dramatic from the first two Thor movies, to kind of rebooting him and making him, funnier and, kind of playing up that aspect. So I really want to see that. I also really want to see more Doctor Strange, because I think there's a lot more that can be shown there. And essentially, the character of Doctor Strange could kind of fall into one of the roles that like Tony Stark filled. I mean, he's got a lot of money, he's super smart, he has abilities and powers, their characters are very similar. And so we could see, him being a bigger role kind of in the post Thanos Infinity Saga MCU. And so that's kind of where I'd like to be. But by far, Spider-Man. So,
well, you don't have to wait for long.
I do not, and I'm very excited about that. So that's gonna be our question of the week to you, Super Friends. What franchise, which character do you want to see post the Infinity Saga? What do you want to see going forward? What are you looking forward to? You can answer us at all of our normal places on the social media, the email, the voicemail. Just we'll post it all up this week. Let's get those answers. Let's hear from you. We'll also post out the winners of our giveaway, the art giveaway for this week. Final thoughts, Patrick, Avengers Endgame. Where are you going to rank this film in terms of all the MCU movies?
This is top 5 for sure. I haven't really thought about ranking it right now. I'm still trying to absorb
soak it
all
in,
the
yeah.
stuff that I saw. I mean, like, this was a very, very emotional film with all of the characters meeting their parents again. and meeting, like their family members and in the past, for, one last time, kind of like saying goodbye kind of thing. So it was one of the most emotional films in the MCU, if not the most emotional. I mean, like there was times where I'm like, I feel like I'm going to cry, but I'm not. Okay. It's like right there on the bubble. And it really made me feel like attached to these characters. So much so that, like the biggest thing about this movie was Morgan, was Tony Stark's daughter, because as a dad, it's like I would do anything for my daughter, and Tony's doing the same thing,
Yeah.
And then going back to the funeral scene, like at the funeral scene, I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm gonna cry, but it's not there yet. But then when Happy is sitting there on the bench with Morgan,
you hungry?
And how good, like he's telling her like how good of a dad he is, like a good person he was. What do you want? She's like, I want a hamburger,
cheeseburger,
and he's like, or cheeseburger. He's like, I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want. And I'm like, and then a tear just goes down my cheek. I'm like, that's really what got it. And I'm like, wow, none of these superhero movies have ever done that to me. And I'm like, that's how big this movie was.
Yeah.
So it's definitely in my top 5, if not top 3.
Britta, what about you?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Definitely right up there in the very top. And again, I have to go see it again because I feel like I was just kind of feeling this whole movie, and there's so much that I need to see again and kind of process. And it's definitely one of my top movies. I used to think that a superhero movie could not make me cry. I mean, you know me, I cry at the drop of a hat, frankly.
Oh, those Hallmark movies. Oh, I know.
Hallmark movies, beer commercials. I mean, like, just babies in general. Like, I didn't, until I had children, I did not cry at stuff. And then I had kids, and now I cry all the time. But I didn't think that a superhero movie would ever make me cry until Infinity War. And that was like, okay. And then this one was just so much more intense and emotional. And like, I just love to have an emotional experience sometimes. Like, you just need to like have a good cry in public with like 100 other people watching this movie, like it's okay. Everyone down the row is sniffling and wiping tears. Like, we did this together, guys. Like, it's okay. We all are feeling the feels, And so I mean, in that respect, like, it's definitely gotta be, I couldn't rank them right now, but like Patrick said, probably in the top 3. Like, it's right up there. I love it.
So when I asked this question, I was like, man, I don't even know where I would rank this, because like I feel like I'm still trying to process it, because I do feel like it's such an emotional film for a superhero film.
Right.
It's definitely top 5. It's maybe even top 3. I think I'm gonna have to watch it a few more times and then sit down and kind of go over the list and say, okay, what do I still think? Because I still say Winter Soldier is like my number 1. But I don't know, like this one, I mean, gosh, it could be the number 1 film. It really, really could. But it's going to give a little time. I got to process this more. Super Friends, I'm sure you're feeling the same. You're going to have to process it more. Britta, thank you so much for coming back to the Fortress of Nerditude 2 weeks back to back. You're a champ.
Yeah.
And then Patrick, thank you. I'm so glad that you reached out and said you wanted to do this and that you were able to make this happen tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So awesome. Patrick, where can all the Super Friends find you? I mean, I know we did this a little while ago, but rolling out the red carpet for you, where are you at on the socials? What are you doing? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Nova Beyond, and then as of the Good Morning Guys podcast, we are at the GMG Podcast. Find us on Facebook, on YouTube. Subscribe. Go on there. Get your friend's phone. Subscribe to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you always.